the strongest lottery system in Pokémon. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26 Earthquake. Boom. Two Onix collided with each other, and the whole gym reverberated with the loud noise of the collision. The gym's ground was shaken violently. Various equipment also resonated, and the whole gym trembled. The trainers waiting in line outside saw the Nibe gym in front of them suddenly shake, and their eyes widened. What's going on? Why did the gym suddenly shake? A trainer said. Someone next to him was a little scared. What kind of battle happened inside? It looks so scary. Could it be Nibe gym trainer Gon's Onix? Only Onix can make such a noise. A trainer analyzed, based on Gon's information. What about Gon's opponent? His opponent who can force Gon to this extent? As soon as these words came out, the voices of discussion outside suddenly fell silent. Yes, to be able to force Gon to this extent. How strong is Gon's opponent? What kind of Pokémon did the guy who just walked in send out? Is this still a new trainer? A group of trainers who came with the idea of picking up the loose ends fell silent. Why are we both challengers? We all read the guides to challenge, but you are so good. Many trainers outside speculated that Luo Yuan and Xiao Gang, who were fighting, naturally didn't know. The two were concentrating at this time, and their attention was all focused on the battle at the moment of the game. The two Onixes were entangled with each other, and they wanted to strangle each other with their bodies, but they failed. Luo Yuan's Onix was large and powerful, while Xiao Gang's Onix was smaller but more flexible. Both sides had their own advantages and disadvantages, and neither could do anything to the other. Onix, use rock blockade. Luo Yuan ordered. The rock blockade used by Onix is completely different from the rock blockade used by Raiden. Luo Yuan's Onix took the initiative to get rid of the entanglement, and the huge rock fell from the sky and hit the opponent. Xiao Gang didn't intend to forcefully break the rock seal, so he immediately ordered, Onix, dig a hole and get out of the way. Xiao Gang's Onix instantly drilled into the ground. Amidst the rumbling sound, Onix disappeared from the ground, leaving only a large hole. Dig a hole? Luo Yuan raised his eyebrows when he saw this. You really dare to use it? Luo Yuan couldn't understand Xiao Gang's operation now. Didn't he know that Onix was a ground type Pokémon and could cause earthquakes? Didn't Xiao Gang know? He really didn't know that Onix could cause earthquakes. When Luo Yuan's Onix was still a wild Pokémon, Xiao Gang had fought it. At that time, Xiao Gang's Pokémon also used digging holes, but Onix didn't use earthquakes. So in Xiao Gang's opinion, Luo Yuan's Onix couldn't cause earthquakes. A strange misunderstanding arose. Luo Yuan didn't know these stories, but he knew that his Onix could cause earthquakes, so he wouldn't give up this opportunity. Onix, use earthquake. There was a rumbling shake, and the ground shook violently. The entire Nibe gym was shaking violently, as if it was about to collapse at any time. When the trainers waiting outside saw this scene, except for some brave ones, all the others ran away. What if the Nibe gym collapsed and knocked them down? Xiao Gang didn't know that Luo Yuan's earthquake move actually helped him solve a big problem. He was nervously looking at the hole in the ground at this time. The earthquake that was completely unexpected made him very passive. The larger the size of the Pokémon, the greater the damage it suffered from the earthquake move, especially since Onix was still underground and its attributes were also restrained by ground type skills. Onix, use rockfall. Xiao Gang shouted tentatively. After that, he saw Onix, which was originally underground, struggling to stick its head out. He endured the damage from the earthquake and used the rockfall trick. A piece of rock fell from the sky and hit Luo Yuan's Onix. Luo Yuan didn't even look at them and let the rocks hit Onix. Onix, Iron Tail. With the falling rocks, Luo Yuan's Onix's Iron Tail slashed heavily at Xiao Gang's Onix. Half of its body was outside, and the other half was still underground. Xiao Gang's Onix was now in a very awkward situation. If Xiao Gang had more than 10 seconds, his Onix would have been able to get out of the ground. Onix, get out of the way. Xiao Gang's Onix wanted to get out of the way, but it was obviously impossible to get out of the way at this time. The damage caused by the earthquake before was reflected at this moment. The iron tail with a metallic luster slashed on Zyaragang's Onyx's body. With a loud bang, Onyx's upper body smashed to the ground due to the huge force. A deep crack was smashed into the ground. Zyaragang's Onyx showed a look of pain, and its body was deeply embedded in it, unable to move. Onyx, how are you? Zyaragang shouted at Onyx. He had had Onyx for a while, and he was basically invincible when dealing with other trainers. When he failed occasionally, it was mostly because he was restrained by the attributes, and he won by using the inflexibility of Onyx. It was the first time that he was crushed head on like now. But it was also because of this that Zyaragang felt powerless. Nothing is more frustrating than defeating someone in the aspect that he is most proud of. But Zyaragang has not given up the opportunity to fight for the last chance. Onyx, let's use the last self-sacrifice collision. Luo Yuan heard this, and his relaxed expression became solemn. Self-sacrifice collision, this move that hurts the enemy 1,000 times and hurts himself 800 times. It seems that Zyaragang really intends to fight to the death. Onyx, coil up your body and hold it steady. With a command, Luo Yuan's Onyx coiled up and stood firmly on the ground. Use the iron head skill and meet it. Luo Yuan's Onyx head slammed into the opponent who was rushing towards him. Boom. The shock wave and air wave caused by the collision spread from the collision point between the two sides and swept across the world. Zyaragang's Onyx was already very weak. Even if he used a self-sacrificing attack, he could not beat Luo Yuan's Onyx in terms of strength, so he was directly knocked out. Zyaragang's Onyx fell to the ground, completely losing its ability to fight. The referee saw that the fight was over, and then he approached carefully from a distance. After observing Zyaragang's Onyx, the referee raised the flag. Onyx has lost its ability to fight. Luo Yuan wins. The winner of this gym challenge is Challenger Luo Yuan. Chapter 27 The Man Behind the Scenes. I lost, Zyaragang thought to himself. But he didn't feel unconvinced. After all, Luo Yuan won the battle with him by crushing him. Zyaragang lost with a sincere heart. Your Leaf Spirit and Onyx are both very powerful. This is a badge of the Nabi Gym. Zyaragang took back the Onyx that fell on the field, took out a box, took out a badge from it, and handed it to Luo Yuan. Luo Yuan was not polite, took the badge, and hung it on his chest. Looking at Luo Yuan's actions, Zyaragang hesitated for a moment and asked, "Excuse me, did you capture your Onyx in the mine of Yujian Mountain?" "Yes." There was no need to hide this. Luo Yuan nodded and admitted it directly. "Then I wish you an excellent ranking in the quartz conference." Zyaragang was amazed when he got the answer he wanted. He had a hunch that Luo Yuan would definitely shine in this year's quartz conference. "Thank you very much." Luo Yuan smiled and said, "Goodbye." Luo Yuan did not stay in the Nabi Gym any longer. After saying hello to Zyaragang, he left the Nabi Gym. The remaining Zyaragang and the gym staff stood on the battlefield, looking at the messy battlefield, looking at each other, and seeing the despair in each other's eyes. How long will it take to repair the field after it was messed up like this? After leaving the Naib Gym, the first thing Luo Yuan saw was a group of challengers who were looking around the gym door. What puzzled him was that the number of challengers at the door was at least 90% less than the number he saw before he entered. What's going on? Why did so many people suddenly run away? Luo Yuan asked, pulling a trainer next to him. The trainer who was pulled over did not show any impatience. He carefully looked at the badge hanging on Luo Yuan's chest, and then glanced in the direction of the Naib Gym. Those guys who left were scared away by the battle between you and Zyaragang. Scary away? Luo Yuan raised his eyebrows. Seeing Luo Yuan's expression, the trainer suddenly became nervous and said hurriedly, "It was the previous earthquake. Many people were afraid that the Naib Gym would collapse, so they ran away. So, I can be considered to have helped Zyaragang?" Luo Yuan let go of the trainer and thought to himself. But he didn't think much about it. The purpose of his coming to the Naib Gym was to obtain the Naib Gym badge. Now that the badge was in hand, it would be nice to help Zyaragang. Thinking of this, Luo Yuan waved to the remaining trainers. "The battlefield of the Naib Gym has been damaged and is being repaired. If you want to challenge the gym, come back tomorrow." Luo Yuan said directly to the trainers, who were still in line. The trainers who were waiting were stunned when they heard Luo Yuan's words. The battlefield of the gym was damaged. Some people wanted to question it, but when they thought of the movement from the Nibe gym before, they felt that what Luo Yuan said made some sense. So, these trainers left the Nibe gym one by one, feeling that they had come at the wrong time. Looking at the empty scene in front of the Nabi gym, Luo Yuan waved to the gym staff who had just come out, and gradually walked away in his grateful eyes. After leaving the Nabi gym, Luo Yuan originally wanted to go to the Pokémon Center to contact Professor Oak, and then leave Nabi City for Cerulean City. But halfway through, he gave up this plan. "Aren't you coming out? You've been following me for so long." Standing in a tree-lined path, Luo Yuan said to the person behind him. Luo Yuan was a little speechless when he said this. How many times has this happened? Why do villains nowadays always like to track? But the tracking technology is so poor. Humph, you actually found us. A woman in a rocket team uniform jumped out of the bushes. Humph, even if you found us, you can't escape today. You actually dared to ruin our plan. Boy, you're in big trouble. A man in a rocket team uniform jumped out of the bushes on the other side. The two of them, one on the left and one on the right, looked very symmetrical. Team Rocket? Luo Yuan raised his eyebrows. The lesson from last time wasn't enough. You still dare to trouble me? He originally thought that after the last incident, Sakaki should have realized that he was not weak and would not trouble him, but he didn't expect that just 2 days later, someone from Team Rocket would come to his door again. What last time? Boy, you ruined our operation, and you still dare to ask us? The green-haired male Team Rocket shouted loudly. Luo Yuan always had a familiar feeling when looking at the guy in front of him. The last time he had this feeling was when it was Kajiro. When he thought of Kajiro, Luo Yuan finally remembered who these two guys were. Armato and Kosaburo? Luo Yuan asked with a raised eyebrow. Do you know our names? Is a reputation so big? Hearing Luo Yuan mention their names, Amado and Kosaburo forgot their previous questioning and looked at each other with a look of surprise on their faces. These two are really weirdos. Yamato and Kosaburo are the nemesis of the Rocket Trio in the original Pokémon, Kajiro, Musashi and Meowth. Compared with the trio who often fail in missions, they are more valued by Sakaki. Of course, they are almost as weird as the Rocket Trio. Knowing that it was these three guys, Luo Yuan was not worried. He didn't think that Sakaki would send these three guys to deal with him with his IQ. But they seemed to have said before that they had ruined their mission. Luo Yuan only went to the Nabi gym today, so that means that the information of the trainers Ayala gang in the Nabi gym was leaked by them. But what is their purpose? What benefits do they get from doing this? With doubts, Luo Yuan looked up at Yamato and Kosaburo who were still narcissistic standing opposite. Since there is a problem, just ask these two guys in front of you. Being stared at by Luo Yuan, Yamato and Kosaburo felt cold all over and looked at Luo Yuan vigilantly. Hey, you guy, why are you looking at us like that? Don't think that we will let you go just because you ruined our operation and praised us. Yamato shouted. When did I ever praise you? Luo Yuan couldn't help but want to complain. But then he reacted and held back. If he were to argue with them, wouldn't he be putting his IQ on the same level as this? Thinking of this, Luo Yuan decisively took out the Pokeball from his waist. Since he wanted to know their purpose, he could just beat them until they lost their ability to resist and then ask them. Anyway, Team Rocket, as villains, has no human rights in this world. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28, Yamato and Kosaburo. When Yamato and Kosaburo saw Luo Yuan taking out the Pokeball, they immediately became alert and put their hands on the Pokemon on their waists. Although they were a little funny, their tactical qualities were still very qualified. After all, they were valued by Sakaki because of their own strengths. Just like the Musashi, Kajiro, Meowth and the trio of Meowth were valued by Sakaki because of their excellent talents as troublemakers and excellent intelligence gathering abilities. Boy, what do you want to do? Kosaburo asked, holding the Pokeball in his hand. You have been following me for so long, and you still ask me what I want to do. Luo Yuan asked back, and then threw out the Pokeball directly. Gastris, control them. Luo Yuan directly released his own Ghastly. This was the first time Luo Yuan used Ghastly to fight after he captured it, but Luo Yuan was confident in Ghastly's fighting ability. Haha. After Ghastly came out of the Pokeball, it laughed. As a lively and active Ghastly, it was really difficult for it to stay in the Pokeball for so long. Now that it finally has a chance to come out, it is determined to perform well in front of Luo Yuan and strive for more opportunities to play in the future. As members of the Rocket Team, Amado and Kosuguro have the same Pokémon as the Rocket Team. As if to distinguish themselves from Kojiro and Musashi, the two did not use Gas Bomb and Arbor. Kojiro used a Rattata and Amado used a Zubat. Rattata, Zubat, kill the enemy. Zubat and Rattata rushed towards Luo Yuan's Ghastly, while Kojiro and Amado were rushing. Luo Yuan covered his face when he saw this. Although he had underestimated the combat effectiveness of these two guys as much as possible, it now seems that he still overestimated them. Kojiro's Rattata is probably their strongest Pokémon. In Luo Yuan's opinion, it is inferior to Musashi and Kojiro's Arbor and Ghastly. Not wanting to waste time with these two guys, Luo Yuan directly asked Ghastly to go all out and ordered, "Ghast, use poison gas." He Ghastly grinned, and the purple mist surrounding his black body was controlled by Ghastly to wrap around Rattata on the ground and Zubat in the sky. Ghastly's poison gas is very toxic. Once inhaled, small Pokémon like Rattata and Zubat will probably lose their combat ability. Zubat, blow away the poison mist. Seeing the floating poison gas, Amado hurriedly shouted to Zubat. Zubat nodded and flapped its wings vigorously. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew away all the poison gas that was wrapping around Rattata and Zubat. But before Amado and Kosuguro could be happy, they suddenly found that Ghastly, who was floating in the sky before, was gone. Where is he? The two hurriedly looked around. Luo Yuan, who was opposite the two, smiled slightly and snapped his fingers. Snap. There was only a crisp sound. Ghastly's body slowly rose from the shadow behind Radha, like a ghost, grinning and staring at Radha who was looking in front of him. It turned out that Ghastly took advantage of the cover of poison gas and used his ability to drill into the shadow to embed himself in Radha's shadow, so Zio Sanlang and others did not find Ghastly. Radha was about to turn his head when he felt Ghastly's cold gaze. Swish! The big pink tongue licked Radha's body. Radha! The brown Radha screamed and shuddered, and the hair all over his body exploded. The fear and shock on his face were clearly visible, and the rich expressions were all frozen on his face. Radha's whole body was stiff, and the paralyzing effect of the tongue licking was fully reflected on his body. Take advantage of now, Shadow Ball. Take advantage of his illness to kill him. Luo Yuan would not give Radha a chance to breathe. He ignored the Zubat who rushed over to support Radha and directly ordered Ghastly to pursue the victory. The purple-black Shadow Ball quickly condensed in front of Ghastly. When the Shadow Ball reached 1/3 of Ghastly's size, it quickly shot towards the fallen Rattata. Boom. The place where Rattata was exploded, and the impact of the Shadow Ball explosion blew Rattata away, and then he easily dodged the Shadow Ball with a shake of his body. Bang! Rattata fell to the ground, fainted, and lost his ability to fight. Radha. Ghastly's series of attacks happened almost in an instant. From Ghastly coming out of the shadow behind Rattata to the Shadow Ball hitting Rattata's body, this process took no more than 10 seconds. Zio Sanlang didn't even have a chance to react. Gritting his teeth, Zio Sanlang glanced at Amado next to him and said, "Let's retreat." This time, the strength of their opponent was far beyond their imagination. His Rattata was killed in just a face-to-face encounter. In this case, Zio Sanlang could hardly see the hope of victory. Amado agreed with Zio Sanlang's opinion and immediately prepared to evacuate. But how could Luo Yuan, who was planning to capture them and torture them for information, let them go so easily? Luo Yuan looked at the two people who were about to escape and took out the Pokeball with Leaf Spirit from his pocket. He used Ghastly just to give Ghastly some combat experience, but it didn't mean that he would only use Ghastly. Leaf Spirit, Leaf Knife, stop them. Swish, swish, swish. 3 flying knives were inserted in a straight line in the escape route of Zio Sanlang and Amado, blocking their way. You want to leave, have you asked me? Zio Sanlang and Amado heard what Luo Yuan said, and cold sweats flowed down. The two looked at each other, and the same thought popped up in their minds at the same time. This is terrible. Ignoring the pleading looks of the two, Luo Yuan ordered Ghastly and Leaf Spirit to surround the two in the center. I ask, you answer. Luo Yuan stood in front of the two. What is your purpose for targeting the Nibe Gym? Luo Yuan was very curious. Why did Team Rocket target the Nibe Gym? As far as he knew, Brock didn't seem to have any grudge against Team Rocket, and Brock didn't have any precious Pokémon in his hands, so why would Team Rocket go to so much trouble to attack him? Chapter 29, Another Lottery. Hearing Luo Yuan's question, Amado and Kosaburo looked at each other, and didn't say anything. They seemed to be hesitant about something, and didn't dare to answer this question. Luo Yuan raised his eyebrows. From the current performance of Amado and Kosaburo, many problems can be seen. As members of the Rocket team, there are not many people who can make them show such expressions. Only Sakaki and some senior members of the Rocket team can make them show such expressions. In other words, this conspiracy against the Nibe Gym was instructed by the top management of the Rocket team. Luo Yuan had a plan in his mind, and his eyes became strange when he looked at Kosaburo and Amado. If these two guys hadn't caught up, he probably wouldn't have known the connection. I wonder if Sakaki would be so angry if he knew that their Rocket team's plan was leaked like this. Thinking of this, Luo Yuan couldn't help laughing. Kosaburo and Amado, who were surrounded by Ghastly and Leaf Spirit, saw Luo Yuan looking at them and suddenly laughed, and felt a chill rushing from the tailbone to the top of the head. This guy's smile is so scary. Too scary. The two looked at each other, and saw fear in each other's eyes. Luo Yuan didn't know what Amado and Kosaburo were thinking. He just suddenly found that the two guys in front of him seemed to be more scared. He was a little confused, but this was a good thing. Luo Yuan thought. Then he raised his head and said in a low voice, repeat again, why did your Rocket team target the Nibe Gym? I don't want to ask for the third time. Then at his signal, Ghastly approached the two with a strange laugh. My Ghastly can hypnotize. If you don't want to taste the taste of dream eating, I advise you to explain the matter. Before Luo Yuan traveled through time, his predecessor was a Pokémon prosecutor. Although he was an intern for only a few months, he had learned all the interrogation skills he should know. Among them, hypnosis plus dream eating is an interrogation technique commonly used by the Alliance prosecutors when dealing with enemies who are extremely evil and have important information. It will not hurt people's lives, but people who have experienced that taste once will never want to experience it again. At this time, it is perfect to use it to deal with Amado and Kosaburo. I say. Hearing about hypnosis and dream eating, Yamato and Kosaburo could no longer sit still. As members of the Rockets, they often fought with League officials, so they had naturally heard about the horror of hypnosis plus dream eating. Yamato and Kosaburo did not have the kind of dedication to shed the last drop of blood for the Rockets, even if they risked their lives. Under Luo Yuan's threat, they told the Rockets about their conspiracy in Nibe City. Ms. Manatori, the secretary of Boss Sakaki, asked us to come to Nibe City to spread information about the Nibe Gym, which attracted a large number of challengers to challenge the Nibe Gym. We don't know what specific actions the organization has taken. Kosaburo begged, that's all I know. Let me go. Garcis. Luo Yuan. Ignoring Kosaburo's pitiful expression, Luo Yuan directly called Ghastly. Garcis, teach him a lesson. No. Kosaburo showed fear on his face. Ghastly didn't care about that. It only listened to Luo Yuan's orders and did whatever Luo Yuan told it to do. Ghastly stretched out his long tongue and licked Kosaburo's face. So numb. Kosaburo's body trembled and he collapsed on the ground with a look of being played with. This look was in sharp contrast to the capable look when he intercepted Luo Yuan before. Amado, who was standing next to him, shuddered when he saw Kosaburo like this. When she saw Luo Yuan shift his gaze to her, she hurriedly said, I know. She was afraid that Luo Yuan would treat her like he treated Kosaburo. Then you tell me, it was Miss Mantori. Miss Mantori asked us to make trouble in the Nibe Gym and contain Zio gang of the Nibe Gym. The main force has an additional mission in Eugean Mountain. Sure enough, there was something else involved. Although Amado and Kosaburo were not very strong, they were elite members of the rocket team after all. Even if they did not go on a mission with the main force, they would know more or less about the content and location of the mission. What does the rocket team want to do in Eugene Mountain? Luo Yuan continued to ask. I heard that a large number of rare fossils were found in Eugene Mountain. I really don't know any more details. Really? Really? Yamato was about to cry. Okay. Seeing Yamato's look, Luo Yuan guessed that she really didn't know any other information. He took out a rope from his backpack, tied them up, and hung them on the tree next to him, called the Nabi City Police Department, and informed the rocket team of their actions in Eugene Mountain. Then he went to Eugene Mountain with his hands in his pockets. While walking, he communicated with the system in his mind, and checked the system rewards. Congratulations to the host for successfully challenging the Nabi Gym, and winning a silver lottery. Win the lottery. Congratulations to the host for winning a mountain multi-purpose bicycle *1. Mountain multi-purpose bicycle? Seeing the rewards from the lottery, Luo Yuan was confused. The rewards for this lottery were too watery, so weak. The cultivation manual and metal film were so useful before, and now he got a multi-purpose bicycle. Let me see what the mystery of this bicycle is. It can actually be considered a silver reward. Chapter 30 Blocked Passage. Multifunctional mountain bike. A bike that can be used in the mountains, as if it were on flatland. That's it? Seeing the system's introduction, Luo Yuan felt very speechless. What kind of introduction is this? You should at least explain the detailed functions. However, Luo Yuan couldn't do anything about it, because the system didn't provide a manual. Luo Yuan found a secluded place with no one around, and took out the multifunctional mountain bike. The moment he took it out, Luo Yuan had to admit that he was attracted by the appearance of the bike. The matte black body, the red painted wheels, the tires made of unknown materials, and the weird and very stylish body gave people a sense of power at first glance. It looks pretty good. Luo Yuan stroked the body, and the body felt smooth and great. Suddenly, Luo Yuan, who was observing the body, saw a booklet hanging on the body. Is this the manual? Flipping through the manual, Luo Yuan finally figured out where the multifunctionality of this multifunctional mountain bike was reflected. First of all, this car can climb over any steep slope not exceeding 70 degrees, and its anti-seismic performance is first class. You will never feel any bumps when sitting on it. Secondly, and the most important function is the Pokeball expansion slots installed on the handlebars on both sides of this car. It is inevitable to encounter Pokémon when riding in the wild. According to the statistics of the Alliance, about 90% of the cases of bicycle deaths in the entire Alliance each year are because the trainers encounter wild Pokémon while riding in the wild, and they do not have time to take out the Pokeball and dodge, resulting in the destruction of the car and the death of people. The Pokeball expansion slot of this car perfectly solves this problem. The small Pokémon radar on the car can detect any Pokémon approaching within 150 meters, automatically detect the threat of the detected Pokémon, and then feed back to Luo Yuan. And Luo Yuan only needs to gently turn the handle to release the Pokémon to fight the enemy, and after the battle, he can retract the Pokéball by gently turning the handle. There are also advantages such as high power headlights for night travel, and the strength of the car body can withstand the pressure of Snorlax. If it is considered a silver reward, it doesn't seem to be a loss. Luo Yuan comforted himself in this way. Of course, Luo Yuan felt that this silver level was more reflected in the Pokémon radar. The technical content of such a small and portable Pokémon radar can be said to be quite high. Luo Yuan believed that even the current Kanto technology giant Silph company could not produce such a device. Of course, he did not think too much about these things. He rode his bicycle and quickly rushed to Eugene Mountain. According to the information given by Yamato, the date of the rocket team's action is today. In front of the tunnel that connects Cerulean City and Nabi City in Eugene Mountain, a group of trainers were stopped in front of the tunnel by several staff members wearing the uniforms of the Pokémon Mining Association. What's going on? Luo Yuan, who rode all the way to the front of the tunnel, looked at the scene in front of him and asked a trainer. The trainer who was asked was a little impatient at first, but when he saw who was asking the question, he was shocked. Boss, why is it you? Luo Yuan felt a little familiar when he heard this. He lowered his head and looked carefully at the trainer in front of him who was caught by him, and his face became strange. This guy, isn't he the trainer who was caught and questioned by him at the door of Nabi Gym before? This world is really small. With an inexplicable sigh in his heart, Luo Yuan said again, we are all acquaintances. Tell me about it. Luo Yuan pointed to the trainers gathered in front and asked. Hearing the word acquaintance from Luo Yuan, the trainer was a little flattered. He was a weak trainer who couldn't be weaker. It was a bit inaccurate to call him a trainer. He was just a weak chicken who came out to travel to see if he could get 2 badges by chance. Unexpectedly, he was remembered by the boss. He was immediately like a chicken blood injection. Boss, my name is Yangtze. It's like this. The tunnel was originally unobstructed, but just now, the people from the mining association said that dangerous Pokémon were found in the tunnel, causing the tunnel to collapse, and it is currently being cleared. But the trainers who went in before didn't see them come out, so it's obvious that the tunnel was not blocked. The mining association is obviously lying. So we are all arguing with the people from the mining association. Is that so? Luo Yuan roughly knew what happened. The mining association blocked the road, and the trainers passing by felt deceived, so they wanted to argue with the mining association. There is something wrong with this mining association. Luo Yuan crossed out the mining association in his mind. If he hadn't known that Team Rocket had a secret operation in Yujian Mountain today, he would have really thought that a dangerous Pokémon had appeared and caused the tunnel to collapse. But he knew that Team Rocket had an operation in Yujian Mountain today, and coincidentally, the mining association closed the road at this time. In addition, the bad feeling that the president gave him before, he could conclude that the mining association was very likely to be in collusion with Team Rocket. But he didn't know the extent of the collusion between the two parties, whether the mining association and Team Rocket were just cooperating in interests or the entire association was infiltrated by Team Rocket. Thinking of this, Luo Yuan felt that this matter was becoming more and more interesting. After a few seconds of silence, Luo Yuan raised his head and smiled. Okay, I know. I'll take care of this matter. Then, under the surprised eyes of the trainer named Yangtze, he walked past many trainers and came to the staff who blocked the entrance of the tunnel. Since the tunnel is blocked, leave it to me. I think I am capable enough to clear the tunnel and deal with the dangerous Pokémon. Who are you, kid? The staff received an order from above to intercept all trainers who tried to enter the tunnel. Now they suddenly heard this and said viciously, a warm-hearted trainer passing by, go away, we don't have time to play with you. Do you know how dangerous the Pokémon inside are? Who will be responsible if something goes wrong? The staff saw Luo Yuan's age and immediately waved his hand and said, dangerous? Then is it stronger than my Onix? While speaking, Luo Yuan threw a Pokeball, and Onix suddenly appeared in the open space next to him. The huge head floated above Luo Yuan's head, and the ferocious eyes that had not completely subsided stared at several staff members. Now, do you still think that I can't deal with the so-called dangerous Pokémon? Gurgle. Several staff members looked at the Onix in front of them and swallowed hard. When Yangtze, who was behind Luo Yuan, saw this scene, he immediately shouted Boss 666 from behind. Chapter 31 In the Tunnel. Led by Yangtze, a large number of trainers seemed to have found their backbone. Don't think these trainers are good kids. Being a trainer these days is not a safe thing. Many trainers die in the wild every year if they accidentally encounter dangerous Pokémon. It can be said that all trainers have a bit of adventurous spirit. The reason why they just argued with the people of the mining association instead of rushing through directly was because they were not strong enough. Now that Luo Yuan, an obviously powerful master, has stepped up to act as a leader, they are naturally happy to rush forward and show these guys who rely on the name of the mining association to block the road a little color. For a while, with Luo Yuan as the leader and Onix as the support, dozens of trainers stared at the several mining association workers in front of them with amazing momentum. The staff who were stared at felt their scalps tingling. They received orders from above not to let anyone enter the tunnel, but who could have thought that they would encounter such a situation? Especially the trainer of Onix. Where did this monster come from? He is only 15 or 16 years old, but he even has a Pokémon like Onix. Could he be the son of a big family in the Alliance? Thinking of this, several staff members looked at each other. It is impossible to stop them. With the strength of the other party, they can't stop them even if they try. Instead of making unnecessary sacrifices, it is better to let them go and find a chance to inform the superiors. Thinking of this, they felt that the pressure from Onyx was not so serious. You can go, but don't blame us for not reminding you if you encounter danger. They made a final warning. Hearing this, several trainers hesitated. But who is Luo Yuan? He immediately replied with a smile. Don't worry, let alone the collapse of the tunnel. Even if there is no tunnel in this mountain, my Onyx can make it drill out. Hearing Luo Yuan's words, the faces of several staff members of the mining association were obviously a little stiff. What made them most uncomfortable was that they had no chance to refute. As staff members of the mining association, they knew that what Luo Yuan said was right. Even if there was no tunnel in Eugian Mountain, Onyx could drill a tunnel. Because the tunnel from Nibi City to Cerulean City was expanded on the basis of a tunnel drilled by Onyx. Seeing these previously arrogant staff members shut up and make way, a group of trainers who had been angry for a long time immediately raised their eyebrows and followed Luo Yuan into the tunnel. Seeing the last trainer disappear from sight, several staff members gathered together. What should we do? The mission assigned by the higher-ups is over. What should we do? It's cold. You saw the look in the eyes of Onyx just now. If we dare to stop it, it might pounce on us directly. If it goes to the police station, our identities will not be able to withstand the investigation. Then should we notify the captain? This is the only way. I hope the captain won't blame us too much. Several staff members dialed a number with bitter faces. Luo Yuan, who had already entered the Tsukumiyama tunnel, didn't know that he had just left and someone had reported his entry into the tunnel. Of course, even if he knew, he wouldn't care. Because he didn't intend to hide it. He had 10,000 ways to sneak into Tsukumiyama without being discovered by those staff members, but he chose the dumbest way to force his way in. Why? Of course, it was for the group of trainers behind him. It was unrealistic for one person to deal with a group of Team Rockets. After all, he was only one person, and the number of Pokémon was less than 6. Even if Onyx and Metagross were strong, they couldn't take care of everything. But with these trainers behind him, and Nibi City's Junsha who was informed by him, and was rushing to Tsukumiyama, it was different. Although these trainers were not strong, as long as they could help him contain a group of Team Rockets, he could easily deal with the rest. As he thought about it and moved forward, Luo Yuan found something unusual in the tunnel. Boss, have you noticed that this tunnel is a little too quiet? Yangtze next to him also noticed something unusual. I have walked through the Moon Mountain tunnel several times before. Although I rarely encountered wild Pokémon, I didn't see any like today. Don't call me boss, I have a name. My name is Luo Yuan. Although it is a bit pleasant to be called boss in private, it is a bit embarrassing to be called like that in public. Okay, boss Luo Yuan. Yangtze followed suit. Yeah, that made him feel much more comfortable. I also noticed the problem you mentioned, but I saw more things. Luo Yuan said as he walked to a corner and picked up a piece of metal fragment with his hand. A fragment of the shell of a tranquilizer smoke bomb, the Rocket team's favorite thing to catch wild Pokémon. Luo Yuan said. Team Rocket? Many trainers exclaimed in unison. Being in Kanto, they were so familiar with Team Rocket. They robbed rare Pokémon, poached in the wild, smuggled all kinds of contraband, and wherever there was darkness, there was Team Rocket. Boss Luo Yuan, how did you know? Yangtze asked from the side. Yes, how did you know that? A group of trainers immediately looked at Luo Yuan. Luo Yuan smiled slightly and said, I used to be a prosecutor of the league for a while. Hiss. Everyone looked at Luo Yuan, as if he were a monster. Boss, are you really only 16 years old this year? You have Onyx, and you have been a prosecutor of the league. Is there anything you can't do? Everyone compared themselves with Luo Yuan and shed sad tears. Chapter 32, Moon Viewing Mountain. Comparison is the culprit. The trainers following Luo Yuan felt that they had lived in vain after hearing Luo Yuan's experience. Look at them. Not only do they have powerful Pokémon like Onyx, but they have also served as the prosecutor of the league. But what about them? They have to rely on the strategy disclosed on the internet to have the courage to challenge in a Eevee gym. With such a comparison, everyone looked at Luo Yuan with a bit of respect. What should we do now? Yangtze asked, since it is Team Rocket in front, should we continue to move forward? Although it seems that he is hesitant to move forward, the expression on his face is completely different. He does not look panic at all, but looks eager to try. Everyone knows that Team Rocket is a group of guys who will not do anything without profit. Now Team Rocket suddenly appeared in Eugene Mountain and bribed the people of the mining association to block the tunnel. Obviously, they found something. Maybe it is a precious Pokémon, or maybe it is an evolution stone vein. No matter which one it is, there is a lot of profit in it. If they could follow the boss and pick up some leftovers, it would be enough for them to make a small fortune. As for Team Rocket, if he met Team Rocket on weekdays, he would naturally want to run as far away as possible, but the situation is completely different now. With Luo Yuan, a big boss, Yuji felt that Team Rocket was not so scary. Of course, we have come here, so there is no way we can go back so dejected. Luo Yuan said, besides, even if it is Team Rocket, it is nothing. There are so many of us here, are we still afraid of Team Rocket? Hearing Luo Yuan's words with strong confidence, the trainers following Luo Yuan nodded one after another. They had entered the tunnel from the entrance through the blockade of the mining association staff before, and now they went back in dejection, which was simply too embarrassing. And as Luo Yuan said, there are so many of them, and there is a big boss like Luo Yuan. It is just a mere Team Rocket. Even if they can't beat them, they can still retreat safely. Before they finished thinking, they heard Luo Yuan continue. I felt that something was wrong with those people from the mining association. I have already notified Miss Junsha from Nibi City. I think Miss Junsha will come here soon. There is no need to worry. As soon as Luo Yuan said this, it was like a reassurance. Some trainers who were still hesitant were relieved immediately. With the big boss leading the way in front and Miss Junsha's support in the back, as well as the temptation of benefits. If they are still timid now, they are not worthy of being called Pokémon trainers. They may not be very strong, but salted fish also have dreams. Let's do it. Listen to you, big boss, said a trainer. The others also echoed. Under the condition of safety and security, they don't mind playing a game with Team Rocket. When they go out to brag to others in the future, they can also proudly say that they are trainers who have played against Team Rocket. Luo Yuan saw that the emotions of these trainers were mobilized by him and nodded with satisfaction. Then let's go, Leaf Elf, show us the direction. Putting away Onyx and sending out the Leaf Elf with a keen sense of smell, Luo Yuan led a team of dozens of people to the direction of Team Rocket. Deep in the Moonview Mountain, a group of trainers wearing Team Rocket uniforms were directing Pokémon to carry out destructive mining in a cave. Hurry up, mine out the Moonstone here. A guy dressed as a Team Rocket cadre shouted to the trainers below. Yes, Captain. The Rocket team members below responded one after another and immediately directed their Pokémon to destroy the rock wall. Moves such as tile splitting, double kicks, and bullet punches were used one after another. Pieces of Moonstone were exposed from the mountain and were packed by the Rocket team members who had been prepared in the back. Thanks to the information provided by Mr. President, the Rocket team cadre said to the person next to him, Scat, we all serve the organization, so don't say so much. The person next to him smiled slightly, and his face appeared from the shadow of the hat. It was President Yana who Luo Yuan had met before in the Pokémon Mining Association. At this moment, President Yana was not as amiable as he was when he met Luo Yuan before. His eyes were shining, and his expression was a little cold. Come to think of it, I have never seen such a large amount of Moonstone. Is the information about the lack of Moonstone veins wrong? The Rocket team cadre named Scar asked curiously. Of course not. At this point, President Yana's face was involuntarily a little proud. I counted the places where Moonstone was found in Eugene Mountain and found that all the places where Moonstone was found in Eugene Mountain were places where meteorites had fallen. Based on this feature, I looked through the historical data of Eugene Mountain for nearly 1,000 years and found dozens of places where meteorites fell. Only then did I find this place. This was also his accidental discovery. He usually studied this to kill time, but he didn't expect to succeed. The number of these moonstones in front of him was so large that even a strong team like the rocket team attached great importance to it. Unfortunately, I haven't found the place where the meteorite known as the Moonstar fell in history. Otherwise we might be able to get more moonstones. Yana couldn't help but sigh. Mr. President, don't sigh. These moonstones are enough. Scar said beside him. I'm too greedy. President Yana laughed when he heard Scar's words. Just when the two were about to continue chatting, the communicator in Yana's pocket suddenly vibrated. Seeing the caller ID, Yana frowned and answered the phone. Hello, this is Yana. What's the matter? President, someone broke in. Yana frowned. Someone broke in? What are you doing? He felt that his men were simply useless, and they couldn't even do such a small thing as blocking the tunnel. Of course, he didn't take it too seriously. It was just a few trainers who broke in. They had nearly 20 rocket team members here. Wasn't it more than enough to deal with a few trainers? The opponent is too strong. We can't stop it at all. A tearful voice came from the communicator. They were also feeling miserable. How strong is he? That guy used a giant onyx, which was very scary. The subordinate replied. Giant onyx. Yana's mind quickly flashed with Luo Yuan's face, but he was still not too panicked. Including him, there were already Cicadas here, enough to stop Luo Yuan. How many people are there? Someone broke in, and he was powerless to change it. Now he just hoped that the number of people who broke in would be less. Probably about 30 or 40. Yana almost died on the spot. 30 or 40 people. Yana felt that, if he was not old, he really wanted to grab the guy on the other end of the phone and ask him, are you a pig? Chapter 33 Battle of Moon Viewing Mountain. The sudden news disrupted many of Yanji's plans. Originally, he planned to cooperate with Scar to finish the excavation of the moonstone here and then leave. If someone breaks in now, once they find out that he is with the rockets, then his position as the president of the Nabi City branch of the mining association, which he has worked hard to build for so many years, may be ruined. What should we do now? Scar also heard the voice from the communicator nearby and knew that someone had broken in. Don't let anyone find out my identity. Yanji didn't expect that just a small action would put his identity in danger of being exposed. He felt a little regretful that he was so careless, and he was determined not to let anyone find out his identity. Don't worry too much, maybe those trainers won't find us here, Scar said. He felt that Yanji was a little too nervous. The tunnels of Tsukumiyama are connected in all directions. In addition to the main road from Cerulean City to Nabi City, there are many branches. The place where they are now excavating the moonstone is in a very remote branch. Few people come here, so there is no need to worry at all. But before he finished speaking, a voice interrupted. Sorry, I may disappoint you. Who? Scar looked up suddenly and saw a young man with a pale yellow cat-shaped Pokémon standing not far away with a half smile on his face. Behind him followed a large number of trainers holding Pokéballs. It's really not easy to find you, Team Rocket. Luo Yuan smiled and said, oh, by the way, and President Yana, how come you are mixed up with the people of Team Rocket after just one day? The atmosphere in the field solidified instantly with Luo Yuan's words. Yana stroked the Pokéball on his waist and stared at Luo Yuan. Scar's face was also very gloomy. He just said that this place is very hidden and will not be discovered, and he was immediately slapped in the face. He felt his face burning. TSK, 18 members of the rocket team actually came to Eugian Mountain to secretly dig moonstones. When did you, Team Rocket, become part-time miners? Luo Yuan looked at the moonstones scattered on the ground and said with a TSK. He thought Team Rocket was plotting something at Mount Tsukumi, but it turned out they were mining. He felt that he was lucky to get a piece of moonstone at Mount Tsukumi before, but he didn't expect Team Rocket to dig so much. Seeing Luo Yuan so unscrupulous, Scar and Yana's eyes were burning with anger. In Kanto, they had never met anyone who dared to tease Team Rocket so unscrupulously. Scar glanced at Yana, and the two reached a consensus in an instant. Boy, since you know our secret, you don't have to leave. In order to ensure that Yana's identity is not leaked, they must keep Luo Yuan and these trainers. Coincidentally, this is what I want to say to you. After Luo Yuan finished speaking, he waved his hand to the many trainers behind him. Go, kill these Team Rockets. According to the rules of the Alliance, as long as we catch these Team Rockets, we can get 30% of these moonstones. In order to curb the development of these dark organizations, the Kanto Alliance has specially introduced a series of laws. In addition to the bounty rewards under normal circumstances, there is also a system for the seizure of spoils. Any trainer who defeats Team Rocket can get 30% of the spoils except Pokémon. Luo Yuan was worried that there was nothing to stimulate these trainers. Now, Team Rocket has dug up so many moonstones, which can be used to stimulate these trainers to work hard. The trainers behind Luo Yuan couldn't hold back. Many of them had never seen so many moonstones in their lives. When they thought that they would have a share of them, as long as they defeated Team Rocket, they were like chicken blood. Go, Pidgeot, Fierce Storm, Bulbasaur, use poison powder. Squirtle, water gun. The scene of more than 30 trainers attacking together was still very deterrent. It's just a group of little ghosts who haven't even grown all their hair. Go ahead and kill them. Scar was not afraid. They were just a group of new trainers who were still wet behind the ears. What he brought today were all the elites of Team Rocket. Sure enough, under Scar's command, the members of Team Rocket threw out their Pokémon one after another. Although the 3-in-1 Magnetron, Double Bullet, Gas, and Gulp are all ordinary Pokémon, and they are not as rare as Bulbasaur and Squirtle in the trainer group, and their number is nearly half, they are superior in level and strength. In a moment, the trainers of the Alliance who seemed to be so powerful before were suppressed. The trainers of the Alliance need 2 or even 3 people to deal with the members of Team Rocket. It's not that easy. Luo Yuan was not disappointed when he saw this. He didn't expect that these trainers who even needed to rely on strategies to challenge the gym could deal with the fierce Team Rocket. He was very satisfied that he could contain these Team Rocket. Luo Yuan reached out to touch his Pokeball. It was time for him to take action. In the distance, Yana, who had been paying attention to Luo Yuan's movements, was surprised to see Luo Yuan take out the Pokeball and immediately said to Scar, who was easily defeating a new trainer next to him, "Be careful." What? Scar was a little confused. What should he be careful about? These trainers are so weak, why should he be careful? But before he could ask, he heard a loud roar. A Onix that was several times bigger than an ordinary Onix appeared on the battlefield, where Team Rocket was fighting with the trainers from the Alliance. With a sweep of its tail, it knocked a stimulating Onix that was about to self-destruct back to Team Rocket. Boom. After an explosion, several Pokémon from Team Rocket were blown up and lost their ability to fight. Luo Yuan captured a very strong Onix in Yujian Mountain. Only then did Yana's voice finally come. Scar looked at the Onix in front of him with an ugly face. He finally knew how strong the powerful Onix mentioned in the communicator was. He blamed Yana for not telling him clearly, but now was not the time to worry about these things. He took out 1 or 2 black Team Rocket special Pokeballs from his pocket. Soarlang, Zbat, kill this Onix for me. One was a fighting Pokémon named Soarlang that could restrain Onix, and the other was Scar's trump card Pokémon Zbat. Scar sent 2 Pokémon to deal with Luo Yuan's Onix at once. President Yana, let's go together. Scar called Yana. Chapter 34, Fierce Battle. Hearing Scar's call, Yana nodded. In fact, even if Scar didn't say it, he would have taken action. He had met Luo Yuan before, and he knew Luo Yuan's strength better than Scar. Luo Yuan's Pokémon must be more than just Onix, as he was able to catch Onix that no one had solved for so long. Raiden, Giragara. Yana also sent out his own Pokémon. As soon as the 4 Pokémon appeared, they rushed towards Onix together. 4 against 1. Luo Yuan raised his eyebrows. He was quite unhappy. If you want to win by numbers, it depends on whether your Pokémon has the strength. Luo Yuan said, and took out another Pokéball. Metagross, Shavron and Zbat are up to you. Stop them. Luo Yuan gave an order to Metagross and concentrated on directing Onix to deal with Raiden and Giragara. With Metagross, he didn't need to worry about dealing with Shavron and Zbat. Moreover, Luo Yuan didn't need Metagross to kill Shavron and Zbat. He just wanted to stop them. Metagross nodded heavily, and its flying saucer-like body quickly floated forward, flying towards Zbat and Shavron, who were rushing towards Onix. Its iron curtain-like body was like a metal wall, blocking the way of Shavaran's bat. Damn, why does this guy have Metagross? As a cadre of Team Rocket, although Scar didn't know much about Pokémon from other regions, he was still very familiar with Metagross. He didn't expect that the boy opposite him didn't have an Onix, but he actually took out another Metagross. Scar had a sentence that he didn't know whether to say or not. I asked you to stop the trainer from letting people in, but your men let people in. The opponent's Onix is obviously much stronger than the ordinary Onix, but you didn't remind me. Now the opponent has directly taken out a quasi-god from the home region. Such important news. You didn't even tell me in advance. If he hadn't known that Hikaji was the confidant of boss Sakaki, he would have suspected that Hikaji was actually an undercover sent by the Alliance. However, no matter how difficult life was, he had to keep going. And even if the opponent was a quasi-god, so what? Without a real fight, it was still unknown who was stronger and who was weaker. What if the opponent was just a show-off? With this thought in mind, Scar shouted to the two Pokémon who had sensed the terrifying aura of the Metagross and became a little hesitant. Forkbit, haircut, Shavaran, double kick. The two Pokémon couldn't resist Scar's order. Although the Metagross on the opposite side looked difficult to deal with, they had to bite the bullet and rush forward with Scar's order. Forkbit flapped its wings, and an invisible air blade slashed at the Metagross with a sharp whistle that broke through the air. At the same time, under the Metagross, Shavaran, who had quietly approached, kicked the Metagross floating in the air. But Metagross' body trembled, and its mechanized brain started to work at a high frequency. Its telekinesis swept through the attacks of the two Pokémon, Shavaran's bat, and analyzed the attack routes of the two Pokémon in a flash. Swish! A translucent wall of light appeared above Metagross' body, and then it suddenly lowered its head and looked at Shavaran, who was kicking it from below. Shavaran did not expect that the trapped Metagross ignored this bat above and directly lowered its head to face itself. Before Shavaran's poor brain could figure out what was going on, Metagross had already swung its iron arm and punched down. Bullet punch. This punch was not dodged, and it hit Shavaran's kicking leg directly. Bang! Shavaran knocked away an Abra who was fighting with Bulbasaur and hit it hard against the wall. Under the power of the bullet punch, even though Shavaran's legs were specially structured, they were also knocked away. At this time, the air blades of the crossbit in the sky had already fallen down. More than 10 air blades hit the temporary light wall propped up by the Metagross, making a bang-bang explosion. The light wall was crumbling. If the Metagross was still fighting with Shavaran at this time, it would be a matter of time before the light wall was broken. But now Shavaran had fallen under the rock wall beside him. Crossbit, get out of the way. Scar, who saw this scene from a distance, ordered hurriedly. If the big mouth bat wanted to evolve into a crossbit, it must have a very high degree of intimacy with its master. The crossbit and Scar could be said to have a tacit understanding. So at this moment, when Scar gave the order, the crossbit instantly vibrated its wings and deviated to the side. Whoosh! The huge body of the Metagross whizzed past the position where the crossbit was before like a huge cannonball, scaring the crossbit, who had escaped by chance, into a cold sweat. Scar, who was far away, also had an ugly face. Almost his crossbit was it. While commanding Sbat to dodge the attack of Metagross, he cast his eyes to Luo Yuan in the distance. However, he found that Luo Yuan was not paying attention to this side at all. Suddenly, a complex taste of anger, shame, and fear spread in his heart. His trump card was almost killed by a teenager, and the other party did not even command his Pokémon from beginning to end. As a middle-level cadre of Team Rocket, Scar was in a state of calm. But he was a well-tested member of the Rocket team after all. He suppressed the complex emotions in his heart and focused all his attention on the battle in front of him. They are now trapped here, and the only exit is blocked by Luo Yuan and the trainers of the Alliance. If they want to leave here with the Moonstone, they must kill Luo Yuan and the group of trainers in front of them no matter what. Thinking of this, he continued to command Bat in the sky and Shavaran, who staggered up from the ground to attack Metagross. Luo Yuan didn't know what Scar was thinking. He just glanced at the battle on the side of the Metagross. After seeing that the Metagross had the upper hand, he stopped paying attention and put all his energy into the battle in front of him. Onix, use Iron Tail. Leaf Elf, use Magic Leaf. Onyx and Raiden, which also has the rock plus ground attribute, and Giraga, which has the ground attribute, restrain each other. Leaf Elf restrains Raiden and Giraga unilaterally. Judging from the attributes, the battle situation should be very favorable to him. But the fact is not so. Because at this time, it is not just Yana who is fighting with him. At the same time, there are also several Rocket members who have freed up their hands after defeating their opponents. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35. The battle situation changes. The Iron Tail swept across, knocking away an Adorino that was blocking the way. The strong wind from the tail blew a Beedrill that was flapping its wings and trying to get behind Onyx from the side. The Pokémon of these elite members of Team Rocket were no match for Onyx. But Onyx was not invincible either. Hikage, who was watching Onyx's movements from the side, moved at this time. Gargala, Bone Boomerang. Hikage ordered. Wearing a pale bone helmet, Gargala's eyes were firm, and he raised his hand to throw the bone stick in his hand at Onyx. Whoosh! The bone stick rotated and turned into a disc, drawing an arc in the air and shooting towards Onyx. It was not meaningless for Hikage to choose to give the order at this time, because Onyx had just used the Iron Tail, and Onyx's posture at this time exposed many flaws. If it was earlier, Onyx could use the Iron Tail to directly knock away Gargala's Bone Boomerang. If it was a little later, Onyx would be able to adjust its body posture. Facing Onyx without any flaws, the Bone Boomerang would also be ineffective. The timing chosen by Yana at this time was just right at the junction between the two time points. He grasped the timing just right and caught Onyx's flaw. Old Fox. Seeing this, Luo Yuan cursed inwardly. If he said what kind of people he hated to fight with the most, old foxes like Yana would definitely be at the top of his list. Although he was not strong, his timing was very uncomfortable, and he was good at disgusting people. Of course, Luo Yuan was not afraid of him. The magic leaf of the Leaf Elf accurately hit the Raiden who was rushing forward. The magic leaf with energy exploded on the surface of Raiden. The impact force of the explosion made Raiden stagger back even with his weight, and had no chance to intervene in the battle. Seeing this, Luo Yuan felt more relaxed and waved his hand directly. Onyx, hold on, then Rock Seal. If you can't dodge, don't dodge. The Bone Boomerang itself is not a powerful skill. Although the ground attribute has a bonus to Onyx's damage, considering Onyx's level, it is nothing to resist this attack. Onyx didn't care about the Bone Boomerang hitting it. It flicked its tail and a large piece of rock hit Giraga. Get out of the way. Giraga dodged left and right, but the stones in the sky seemed to have no rest, falling like raindrops. Every time Giraga wanted to stop and catch his breath, a stone fell from the sky, forcing it to continue running to avoid the falling rocks. Raiden on the side was also affected. The double attack of Rock Seal and Magic Leaf was imposed on it, making it feel twice as happy. Yana looked at Onyx who was throwing stones without stopping for a moment, and his mood was so bad that it was hard to describe. Luo Yuan clearly relied on Onyx's physical strength to consume the physical strength of Raiden and Giraga. However, his two Pokémon had no ability to break through the situation, so they could only row towards the abyss step by step. In comparison, Luo Yuan was in a very good mood, especially when he saw Giraga and Raiden running away under the rain of rocks, and Yana's ugly face. He felt very comfortable. If you defend for a long time, you will lose. As long as you continue like this, it will be a matter of time before Raiden and Giraga, who have been dodging and unable to attack, will be killed by his Onyx. Damn it, everyone, go up and deal with that Onyx together. Yana saw that the situation was getting more and more unfavorable to him, so he had to call on the Rocket team to besiege Luo Yuan. But how could there be so many people at this time? Several Rocket team members who came to besiege Luo Yuan were killed by Onyx's attack. Yana continued to draw people, which made the Rocket team's Linoop to fight against those ordinary trainers shrink again. The situation that Team Rocket had been in the upper hand was gradually reversed, and the situation became unfavorable to Team Rocket. Continuing to withdraw manpower would tilt the balance of victory towards the trainers of the Alliance represented by Luo Yuan. Doesn't Yana know this obvious thing? Of course he knows. But he has no other way now. Once he loses to Luo Yuan will be free, and the situation will be even worse. If Team Rocket wants to win now, they can only kill Luo Yuan first, then gather manpower and turn around to deal with these trainers of the Alliance. And I have already notified the men in Nibe City, and the support should be here soon. Yana thought so in his heart, and his tense nerves relaxed a little. Luo Yuan looked at the trainers of Team Rocket who were gradually surrounding him, and he immediately understood Yana's intention. Sure enough, those who can become the cadres of Team Rocket are not fools. It is impossible for me to end the battle so easily. But you are the only one who can change the strategy. Luo Yuan laughed. Luo Yuan snapped his fingers, and Onyx stopped moving immediately, and the rain of rocks falling from the sky also stopped. Just when Yana breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that Luo Yuan was about to switch from offense to defense after seeing so many people surrounding him, the Metagross, which had almost hung up the Chavalang and the crossbit, suddenly abandoned its poor opponent and rushed over here at an accelerated speed. Like a meteor, the silver grey body of the Metagross knocked away an arbo that was blocking the road and then hit the resting Raiden. Boom. Raiden's relaxed expression instantly twisted into a painful expression, and its huge spherical body flew out horizontally and was actually knocked away by the Metagross. Gurgle. The trainers from both the League and Team Rocket swallowed their saliva when they saw this scene. How powerful is this to knock a Pokémon like Raiden away? For a moment, they looked at Luo Yuan with awe. Chapter 36 Breakout and Pursuit. Everyone was frightened by the sudden appearance of Metagross. It was not so scary when I saw the battle between Metagross and Zavalon and Bat before, a Rocket player said hesitantly. He looked up at Metagross, who was dragging Raiden and punching like a pile driver, and then quickly lowered his head. I can't afford to offend you. I can't afford to offend you. Didn't you see that President Yana's Pokémon was also beaten? It was obvious that this Metagross was not a Pokémon that a low-level Rocket player like him could deal with. It was better for him to play ostrich honestly. Raiden, damn it, what are you all standing there for? Come on. Seeing his Pokémon being beaten black and blue by Metagross and screaming, Yana suddenly became anxious and quickly scolded the Rocket players who were stunned on the side, without any of the calmness he had before, when he was sure of victory. The Rocket players below had already developed a fear of Metagross, and did not want to fight Luo Yuan. Although they are Team Rocket, their Pokémon are also the foundation of their existence in this world. How great must their hearts be to let their Pokémon die? Although they are reluctant in their hearts, who can blame Yana for being a cadre? The internal hierarchy of Team Rocket is strict. If they dare to disobey the orders of the cadres, they will definitely be much more miserable than being killed by Luo Yuan. Abo Monster, Irontail, Radar, Killing Fangs. Gritting their teeth, Team Rocket ordered their Pokémon to rush towards Metagross, trying to use human wave tactics to deal with Metagross. Hey, you bunch of scum of Team Rocket, don't you take us seriously? Yuji saw that Team Rocket was about to besiege his boss again, and immediately shouted loudly, everyone, come together, kill these rockets, don't let them disturb Boss Luo Yuan. They haven't lost their combat effectiveness yet, and these rockets dare to ignore them. Do they really think they don't exist? Go. Let them see how powerful we are. Teach these rockets a lesson. Roar. A group of trainers from the Alliance were encouraged by Yuji, and they stood shoulder to shoulder, commanding their Pokémon to charge towards the rockets. The rockets, who were reluctantly besieging Luo Yuan, were not surprised but happy. This was a good opportunity. They could avoid the organization's accusations, and avoid fighting that perverted Metagross. It was killing two birds with one stone. Anyway, Yana was not their direct superior, so they didn't care what Yana thought of them. So, the Rocket's Pokémon, who were charging forward, turned around in an instant under the command of the Rockets, and fought with the trainers from the Alliance. The two sides fought fiercely. As for the fact that some Rockets seemed to be deliberately dragging their feet, and not dealing with their opponents, in order to avoid fighting Metagross, we happily ignored it. In the distance, Yana, who was counting on these Rockets to rescue his Raiden, was so angry that his body trembled. He pointed at Team Rocket in the distance, trembling and unable to speak. It seems that you don't have much prestige in Team Rocket. Luo Yuan crossed his arms and hugged them in front of his chest, looking at Yana and smiling. Even these Rocket members don't listen to your orders. Hearing Luo Yuan's ridicule, Yana was immediately furious. Don't be complacent. But before he finished speaking, there was a bang, and Raiden was finally knocked unconscious by the punch of Metagross. The body made of rock was covered with cracks of varying thickness, and the head, which was originally small, swelled up a circle, looking a little funny. Onyx swept out with its tail, hitting Garagara, who was not able to dodge in time, and swept Garagara, who was not big in size, away. After the bone boomerang was knocked down by Onyx, the bone helmet on its head also broke into several cracks, and it rolled on the ground for several times, not knowing whether it was dead or alive. You are obviously at a disadvantage, but you still dare to talk to me? Luo Yuan said, looking at the Garagara who couldn't get up for a long time. Didn't you talk to me first? Exclamation mark. Yana cursed in his heart, but he was not stupid enough to say this sentence out loud. He frowned, feeling that the calm mentality he had cultivated for so many years was completely destroyed today. At this time, Scar, who was suppressed by Metagross to the point of doubting his life, finally ran over and winked at Yana, meaning, retreat. Yana looked at Luo Yuan, looked at the Pokémon lying on the ground, and finally looked at the Rocket team members who were paddling. Let's go. After saying that, he took back the Raiden and Garagara who were defeated by Luo Yuan and had lost their combat ability, and followed Scar to lead the way out. This time they failed completely, and even his identity was exposed, but it didn't matter. With his qualifications, he would definitely be able to occupy a place in the Rocket team, even if he returned to the Rocket team. Yana was determined to deal with Luo Yuan when he got enough people back to Team Rocket. Scar turned his head to look at Luo Yuan and made a throat-cutting gesture to him. Boy, next time I see you, I'll let you know the real strength of our Team Rocket. He gestured to his men. Team Rocket, which was fighting with the Alliance, didn't dare to pretend to obey and threw out Pokémon such as Double Bomb Gas and Naughty Egg. Swish. Smoke rose. The tunnel shook with the sound of explosions. More than a dozen people from Team Rocket rushed out, while the trainers of the Alliance were panicking. Huh? You want to run away after offending me? Luo Yuan was prepared. Onyx, Metagross. Luo Yuan waved his hand, and Onyx and Metagross surrounded Team Rocket from both sides, completely ignoring the diffuse smoke and the occasional self-explosion in the smoke. Go from the sky. Unexpectedly, Luo Yuan chased so decisively. Seeing that Metagross and Onyx were outflanking them, Yana hurriedly said. Scar nodded, and the two of them grabbed a foot of Forkbutt and quickly rose into the air. Forkbutt is worthy of being Scar's main Pokémon. It carried the two people and dodged left and right in the sky, avoiding the rocks thrown by Onyx. But being able to get rid of Onyx does not mean that they can get rid of Metagross. Metagross, which has psychic attributes, has locked onto the two people, and its high-speed brain has calculated every route for their escape. There is no possibility of losing them. Just when the two were getting more and more desperate, at this time, dense footsteps suddenly sounded in the tunnel ahead. It's reinforcement. The reinforcement I called for are here. Yana shouted to Scar with a look of surprise. Chapter 37 The so-called reinforcement. Scar was obviously excited when he heard Yana's words. Today was really unlucky. Not only did he fail to complete the task assigned by the superiors, but almost all of his subordinates were killed. Now he was in danger of being caught. Fortunately, Scar looked at Yana and admired Yana very much. As expected, the old man was still the best. Although the reason why he was blocked in the tunnel was because Yana's subordinates did not guard the tunnel well. But now it seems that Yana, a veteran Rocket player, is still reliable at the critical moment. If it weren't for Yana's reinforcement, the two of them would definitely be caught by Luo Yuan. Let your people stop the Metagross. Scar was not polite to Yana at all. In his opinion, as long as they can escape successfully, this loss of manpower is nothing to him. Okay. Yana didn't feel bad. He had trained these subordinates for so long, and it was time to use them. Even if they were caught, he could pay for their bailout, as long as he had the chance in the future. The crossbow quickly flew in the direction of the footsteps. The footsteps were getting closer and closer. Yana shouted loudly, "Quick! Help me stop the one behind." He only said half of the words and stopped abruptly. It was like a rooster that was crowing and suddenly had its throat pinched. "What's wrong?" Scar, who had just directed the crossbow to avoid another attack from the Metagross, looked at Yana in confusion. "Wasn't it fine just now? Why was there no sound suddenly?" Scar looked down following Yana's gaze and saw a group of people with Pokémon blocking the tunnel. However, these people were not Yana's men as they imagined, but a group of policemen in police uniforms. What's going on? How did the reinforcement become policemen? Or was Yana lying to him? Just when Scar was suspicious, the police below were also stunned. They received news to arrest Team Rocket, so why did they see the president of the Nabi City Mining Association here now? When Junsha, the leader, saw Yana, she was stunned for a moment. Although she didn't know why Yana was with Team Rocket, she knew it was right to take action when she saw Team Rocket. "Don't move, put down the Pokémon." Junsha ordered the two. Scar's face changed drastically, his eyes flickered several times, and he threw out his Pokéball directly. "Let him sit and wait to be arrested by the police." He didn't want to. Scar said coldly, "Go, Shavarang, double kick, make a way for me." Under his command, Shavarang, who was already very tired, still insisted on rushing to Junsha in front. Junsha waited for the opportunity. Windspeed dog, spray flames. A jet of flame swept across, and Shavarang didn't dare to greet it, so he had to dodge everywhere. Just when Scar was still about to continue commanding the Pokémon to continue fighting, a loud noise suddenly came from the tunnel behind. Rumbling, Luo Yuan riding Onyx caught up. Luo Yuan, who entered the battlefield, commanded the Metagross in the sky. "Megalodon, use your mind to aim at the position 40 degrees diagonally in front of the X-Bat in the sky." Although the Metagross could calculate the X-Bat's dodge route, as the person in charge, its grasp of timing was not as clear as Luo Yuan, the bystander. An invisible telekinesis shot out. Seeing this, the X-Bat flying forward would naturally not sit and wait for death. It quickly dodged to the side. However, as soon as it made a move, Luo Yuan's second command was transmitted to the Metagross's ears. "Megalodon, move to the right side of the X-Bat in an instant, and then use the bullet fist." The Metagross followed Luo Yuan's instructions 100% without any hesitation. So the Metagross, which moved to the right side of the X-Bat in an instant, watched the X-Bat dragging Scar and Yana to collide head-on, as if sending itself to the mouth of the Metagross. "Get out of the way, Zbat." Scar, who saw the Metagross suddenly appear beside him and punch him and the others, was scared to death. But how could Zbat, who was dragging two people, get out of the way? If there was only Zbat, this flexible action might be possible, but with Yana and Scar as the weights, even if Zbat frantically flapped its wings, its body was still pulled towards the Metagross by the strong inertia. Bang! Without any surprise, the Metagross's fist hit Zbat's body, and Zbat immediately fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string, knocking Scar and Yana to the ground. In the distance, Shavarang, who was fighting with Windy Dog, saw his master falling from the sky, and his moves were in chaos for a while. In addition, without Scar's command, he was defeated by Windy Dog with a big explosion. Metagross and Onyx stood on Luo Yuan's left and right, and Junsha on the opposite side stared at Yana and Scar, who fell to the ground. The overall situation has been decided. "Excuse me, are you here to report a crime?" Junsha on the opposite side saw the end of the battle, walked up to Luo Yuan and said, "Can I know what the situation is here now? I'm still a little confused." Although she acted decisively just now, Junsha did not know why Yana, the president of the Mining Association branch, would mix with the Rockets. "I was the one who reported the case. As you can see, this guy named Scar is an executive of Team Rocket, and the president of the Mining Association branch. Yana is an undercover agent of Team Rocket. He colluded with Team Rocket to block the tunnel in Tsukumi Mountain and steal the Moonstone. The trainers behind me and the captured Team Rocket can prove this." Luo Yuan pointed at the trainers who came from behind, and the Team Rocket members who were tied up with ropes by them, and said, "We went through a hard battle to defeat these Team Rocket members." The trainers who came from the rear heard what Luo Yuan said and said, "Boss Luo Yuan, you are too modest. We just tied down these Team Rocket members for a while. We were able to kill them thanks to you." Yes, Boss Luo Yuan, if it weren't for you, these Team Rocket soldiers would have gotten rid of us. Then they talked about things like a giant onyx fighting more than a dozen Pokémon alone, and Metagross crushing the Carters of Team Rocket for free, and Junsha on the opposite side was stunned. Ahem. Luo Yuan. Luo Yuan, boss, right? Junsha was obviously a little awkward when she said the word boss. She had never called anyone boss before. Luo Yuan almost spit out when he heard Junsha's name and waved his hand hurriedly and said, ahem, these are just names that everyone gave me casually, just call me Luo Yuan. Junsha also knew that what she said before was wrong, and her face turned red. She hurriedly changed the subject. Mr. Luo Yuan, can you take me to see the moonstones that the rockets have stolen? No problem, come with me. Luo Yuan was going to take her to see the moonstones. After all, this was related to the issue of the distribution of spoils later. He led the way for Junsha directly in front. Chapter 38 Heading to Cerulean City. Luo Yuan led Junsha to the place where Team Rocket excavated moonstones. Junsha was stunned by the scene in front of her. How many moonstones are there here? As far as she could see, the excavation tools were thrown aside casually, and there were several boxes for moonstones on the ground. I don't know, but there are a lot of them anyway. Luo Yuan understood Junsha's surprised expression very well. He was also shocked when he saw this scene. It seems that the Alliance has not yet excavated so many moonstones at one time. This time, Team Rocket got ahead of the Alliance. As the head of the Nabi City Police Department, Junsha is also well informed. After a moment of stunnedness, she quickly came to her senses. She took a deep breath. Thank you, Mr. Luo Yuan. If it weren't for you, so many moonstones would have flowed to Team Rocket, which would have caused a huge impact on the Alliance. Junsha thanked sincerely, and it was not a polite remark. The role of moonstones is basically known to anyone who has some knowledge of Pokémon. In Kanto, the moonstone has two functions. One is to make Pidgeot and Jigglypuff evolve into Pixie and Jigglypuff, and the other is to make Nidorina and Nidorino evolve into Nidoqueen and Nidoking. The former function is of little value to Team Rocket, but making Nidorina and Nidorino evolve is of great significance to Team Rocket. Nidoking and Nidoking are heavyweight Pokémon in battle. One Nidoking can easily kill 5 or 6 unevolved Nidorinas, and the difference is only one moonstone. It can be predicted that once Team Rocket obtains this batch of moonstones, it will soon be able to obtain a large army of Nidoking and Nidoking, which will pose a threat to the Alliance. No big deal. After all, I was also a Pokémon prosecutor before. Luo Yuan smiled and brought out the words he used to deal with Junsha in Viridian City. Mr. Luo Yuan was also a Pokémon prosecutor before. Junsha looked at Luo Yuan with a more friendly look. No, there are so many moonstones. I need to report as soon as possible. After instructing her subordinates to tie up the tied up Team Rockets more tightly, Junsha felt unsafe. What if these Team Rockets had follow-up reinforcement? While dialing the phone to contact Junsha in Cerulean City at the other end of the tunnel, she turned her head and shouted to her subordinates, count the moonstones immediately and deliver 30% to Mr. Luo Yuan according to the regulations. Yes, Chief Junsha. Luo Yuan ignored the police officers who were looking at him with curious eyes and the trainers who were eagerly watching the police officers counting the moonstones. He walked to Scar and Yana. I heard that you want me to see the power of Team Rocket? Luo Yuan smiled and said to Scar, I'm here now. If you have any other means, use them quickly, otherwise it won't be so easy to get out once you enter the League's prison. Scar frowned and said nothing. Yana also looked desperate. The League's punishment for Team Rocket carders is completely different from that for ordinary Team Rocket members. Perhaps they wanted to save these rockets who had gone astray, or they wanted to recover some losses from the rockets. After being arrested, the rockets, except for those who were in serious circumstances, could be released soon, as long as they were willing to pay a bail. However, it was completely different for the rockets carders, because they were all heads of the rockets, so the League did not care whether their circumstances were serious or not. As long as their identities were verified, they would all be sentenced to 3 years. Boy, don't be too proud too early, the boss will avenge us. Knowing that he was in trouble this time, Scar simply broke the jar and threatened Luo Yuan. Boss. Luo Yuan laughed. thinking that Sakaki was obsessed with making Mutuo and couldn't extricate himself, so he didn't have the mood to care about you guys. Whatever makes you happy. He said this lightly, and in Scar's expression of being angry and almost vomiting blood, Luo Yuan said goodbye to Junsha, patted his butt, and left with his deserved reward. In addition to the bonus for capturing Scar, Luo Yuan also received 30 moonstones for his contribution in the battle. The remaining trainers also received 1 to 2 moonstones each according to their contributions. Everyone was very satisfied with the harvest. Before leaving the Tsukumiyama tunnel, a group of people waved goodbye to Luo Yuan. Goodbye, boss Luo Yuan. Luo Yuan's mouth twitched when he heard this. It looked like a gang was bidding farewell to their leader. But it felt good. Waving goodbye to everyone, Luo Yuan set off on his journey to Cerulean City. But, I say, you. Luo Yuan looked at Yuji who was following him. I'm going to challenge the gym. Why are you following me instead of going home? Yuji, the first guy to recognize Luo Yuan as the boss, did not leave with the other trainers, but followed Luo Yuan. Hearing Luo Yuan's words, Yangtze felt a little embarrassed. Boss Luo Yuan, I'm going to challenge the gym too. Challenge the gym? It's not that. Luo Yuan looked down on him. Luo Yuan had noticed Yangtze when they were fighting in the tunnel before. To put it mildly, he was not really strong. Yangtze certainly knew his own strength level, but he was not embarrassed at all. That's right, I'm going to challenge the gym. Although I'm weak, Hulan Gym is weaker. Yangtze said this with confidence. Luo Yuan wanted to say something, but after thinking about it carefully, it seemed to be true. Hulan Gym's reputation as the weakest gym in the Alliance was widely circulated throughout the Alliance, and it could be called the shame of the Kanto Alliance. The gym trainers in Cerulean City are Xiaoxia's 3 sisters, 3 excellent ballet performers known as the Cerulean Sisters. As for being excellent Pokémon trainers, they have nothing to do with them. Thinking of this, Luo Yuan suddenly thought of the trainers who formed a group from Nibi City to Cerulean City. He asked, you guys are not planning to come to the Cerulean Gym to get the Cerulean badge under the pretext that the Nibi Gym is closed? Hearing this, Yangtze was surprised. Boss, you guessed this? Really? Luo Yuan's mood at this moment was simply indescribable. Chapter 39 The 3 Hulan Sisters. Before crossing, Luo Yuan thought that every Pokémon trainer was as passionate and full of fighting spirit as Xiaoxia. But the facts prove that no matter which world there is no shortage of salted fish. Okay. Luo Yuan did not have any contemptuous thoughts. Everyone has a different way of living, and he could not interfere. He nodded to Yangtze. Since your destination is also the Hulan Gym, let's go together. As he said, he took the lead and walked forward. Yangtze immediately followed him quickly after hearing that. Boss, this is your first time in Hulan City. Yangtze introduced to Luo Yuan while walking. If you come to Hulan City, the water ballet performance of the Hulan Sisters in the Hulan Gym is a wonderful project that you must see. Oh, have you been here before? Luo Yuan asked. I came here once before. I saw the water ballet performance of the Hulan Sisters at that time. The Hulan Sisters were so beautiful. Yangtze was a little dazzled when he talked about the Hulan Sisters. Luo Yuan smacked his lips. In addition to being weak and liking to take advantage, he discovered another shortcoming of his cheap younger brother. Then you still want to challenge the Hulan Gym? There is no conflict between watching water ballet and challenging a gym. Yangtze said as a matter of course. What you said makes sense. I'm speechless. However, Luo Yuan doubted whether he could be as calm as he said when he actually met the 3 Hulan Sisters. The Hulan Gym in Hulan City is different from the Nibi Gym in Nibi City. The Hulan Gym is located closer to the city center, and the surrounding environment is relatively not so remote, but more prosperous. As soon as he approached the gym, Luo Yuan could hear thunderous applause from the gym. Is it so exaggerated? After telling the guard that he was a trainer, Luo Yuan pushed the door open. What he saw was a sea of people. The stands of the environment wrapped the huge swimming pool in the center. Although the stands were not full, the attendance rate had reached more than 80%. Although this number does not seem high, it is quite difficult for the 3 Hulan Sisters who often hold water ballets. However, Luo Yuan and his team seemed to have come at the wrong time. When they entered the Hulan Gym, The water ballet performance had already come to an end. Luo Yuan and Yangtze only saw the three Hulan sisters thanking each other in the water. What a pity. Yangtze had a regretful expression on his face. The performance ended so early. He was disappointed. The reason why he followed Luo Yuan to the Hulan gym instead of following other trainers to return to the Pokémon Center to restore the Pokémon's physical strength was because he wanted to see the performance as soon as possible, but unfortunately he was still a step late. I think it's just right. Luo Yuan smiled slightly. The performance is over, and it's just right to challenge the gym, so we don't have to wait here for so long. Luo Yuan didn't feel any regret. He could challenge the gym as soon as he arrived, and he didn't have to waste time watching the water ballet performance here, which could save him a lot of time. If you want to be an excellent trainer, you might as well spend more time training Pokémon. Luo Yuan said to Yangtze. After all, Yangtze recognized him as the boss, and Luo Yuan felt it necessary to give his younger brother some advice. Upon hearing that he could become stronger, Yangtze, who was just lamenting that he had missed the water ballet performance, immediately pricked up his ears. Boss, are you saying that I have a chance to become as strong as you? Yangtze's eyes widened. He had always been at the bottom of the list, no matter what he did, since he was a child, and no one had ever said such a thing to him. For a moment, Yangtze couldn't help but burst into tears. It's impossible to be as strong as me in a short time. Luo Yuan didn't want to hit him, and said tactfully, however, as long as you spend more time training, you will at least be much stronger than you are now, and it won't be so hard to challenge the gym. Luo Yuan had noticed this during the previous battle. Although these Pokémon trainers headed by Yangtze are weak, their Pokémon are not all Pokémon without potential. If Yangtze is willing to spend some time training his Pokémon, his strength will definitely be greatly improved. Train hard. I understand, boss. Yangtze nodded hard. Remember not to train blindly, but to carry out special training for the specialties of Pokémon, and to fight against each other frequently, to hone the tacit understanding between you and your Pokémon. Luo Yuan briefly told Yangtze about his experience in training Pokémon. Yangtze immediately took out his notebook and took notes carefully. One of them talked, and the other took notes. Soon Luo Yuan found that the entire stand had begun to disperse, and the audience left the gym one after another. Only Luo Yuan and Yangtze were left in the entire Cerulean gym, along with a few trainers who looked like trainers. Who are you? Sakura, one of the three Cerulean sisters, asked. We are the Pokémon trainers who are here to challenge the Cerulean gym. Trainers? I thought you were fans who wanted our autographs. Mutant looked disappointed. Don't be rude. Sakura scolded. I'm sorry, everyone. Please follow me. Chapter 40 Awkward Battle. Scolded by Sakura, Mutant stuck out her tongue playfully but said nothing. Sakura turned to look at everyone. Everyone, are you all here to challenge the gym? In addition to Luo Yuan and Yangtze, there were 3 other people. But obviously not everyone came with the purpose of challenging the gym. A boy with glasses raised his hand weakly and said in a low voice, I'm a fan of Sister Mutant, and I came here specifically to ask for an autograph. After hearing what the boy said, not only Luo Yuan and others, but even Sakura was stunned. Is there really someone who waited until this time just to get an autograph? Luo Yuan, who was not interested in water ballet, could not understand this behavior, but Yangtze next to him seemed to be very interested in getting an autograph. What Sakura and Akora cared about was why Mutant had fans, but she didn't. Mutant, who was standing aside, tried hard not to laugh out loud as she signed an autograph for the very weak looking boy with glasses under the gaze of her 2 sisters. Sakura turned around and looked at the others. Then it seems that the rest of you are here to challenge the gym. Because the gym has limited space, it can only accommodate 1 challenger at a time. The order of the competition will be decided by drawing lots. Is that okay? Of course, everyone had no objection. After all, challenging the gym requires 1 person to come one by one. In this situation, whoever goes first will make the others feel dissatisfied, so letting luck determine the order can be said to be the fairest method. So, Luo Yuan drew the last one, and even Yangtze was ahead of him. Luo Yuan's mentality exploded immediately. He has always claimed to be the reincarnation of the European emperor. Whether it was the previous system lottery or something else, his luck was very good, but why did he feel that his luck was getting worse and worse recently? Even if you don't put me in the first place, you can put me in the middle. What does the last place mean? Boss, this is not necessarily a bad thing. There are advantages to being in the front and the back. You can analyze countermeasures by observing the battle of the three Hulan sisters. Yangtze comforted him from the side. If you said this to another gym, I would believe it for the time being, but don't you have an idea of the strength of the three Hulan sisters? Is it necessary to observe the strength of the three Hulan sisters? To put it in a more exaggerated way, Luo Yuan can easily beat them. Okay. Ahem. Yangtze seemed to know that he had said the wrong thing and coughed twice to cover up his embarrassment. Forget it, just wait and see. Luo Yuan did not complain too much. After all, it was just because of his bad luck this time. He thought that there were not many trainers ahead of him. Even if the three Hulan sisters were weak, there were still 3 gym trainers. It was not possible for the entire gym to be overturned by 3 trainers. With this idea in mind, Luo Yuan looked at the challenger who was ready to fight, and Sakura who was responsible for the challenge. The battlefield of both sides was in the pool in the center of the field. There were 2 huge floating boards on the pool for Pokémon to stand on. In such a water field, although it was not necessary to use water Pokémon, it was obvious that heavyweight Pokémon like Onix and Nidoking could not be used. The challenger was a young man with hair, wax on his head, with a confident expression, and seemed to be very experienced in gym challenges. It should be a trainer who has challenged a gym before. Generally, new trainers will be a little nervous when they challenge a gym for the first time. Sakura changed into a formal outfit. She didn't look as weak as the rumors said. She had a heroic feeling. This made Luo Yuan look forward to Sakura, one of the 3 sisters of Hulan. Seeing Sakura like this, maybe she can bring him some surprises. The rules of the Hulan gym are the general rules of the Alliance gym challenge. Both sides can use 3 Pokémon. During the battle, the challenger can change Pokémon, but the gym trainer cannot change Pokémon. Do you have any objections? Mutant acted as the referee of the game. No problem. The Waxman said, and took out a Pokéball from his waist. Corda, from Vermilion City. Sakura also took out a Pokéball. Huanlan Gym, Sakura. Mutant raised the flag in her hand and waved it down vigorously. The game begins. Go, Mosquito. Go, deal with your opponent. Thunderball. Both sides sent out their Pokémon almost in no particular order. HMM. Luo Yuan, who was originally thinking about what kind of Pokémon Sakura could send out, covered his head in embarrassment and couldn't bear to watch anymore. He really shouldn't have expected anything from her. As a gym trainer who represented the Alliance in Cerulean City and was at the level of a trainer, Luo Yuan was also drunk that he could send out a Pokémon like Mosquito. As for the opposite side's Thunderbolt, although it looked very weak to Luo Yuan, it was still much stronger than Mosquito. The following battle also proved this point. Mosquito, we attack first. Use Bubble Beam. Thunderbolt, dodge. Mosquito, Water Gun. Thunderbolt, dodge. Thunderbolt, Electric Shock. Mosquito, dodge. Mosquito. Your Thunderbolt is very powerful. I lost the first game, Humph. Your Mosquito is not weak either. Be careful, I will send out a more powerful Pokémon in the next game. Covering his face, Luo Yuan could imagine an extremely awkward battle just by listening to the commands of the 2 people. This is more than just a fight between rookies, it's a fight between chickens. These 2 guys even started to flatter each other, which was shameless to the extreme. You keep an eye on it for me. I'm going to go out for a walk. If you find me, call me. Unable to stand the atmosphere here, Luo Yuan said something to Yangtze, who was watching with great interest, and walked out of the Hulan gym. He bought an ice cream from an ice cream shop on the roadside. Just as the embarrassment in his head was dissipated with the coolness of the ice cream, Luo Yuan suddenly saw a red sports car driving around the corner through the glass. That's Chapter 41 Okishijiru. A red convertible sports car drove from the corner. Of course, ordinary sports cars would not attract Luo Yuan's attention. The reason why he noticed this sports car was because this sports car was overloaded. The sports car, which was originally rated to carry only 4 people, was carrying 7 or 8 people. What are the Junshas in Hualan City doing? This sports car is obviously seriously overloaded. Didn't anyone stop it? When Luo Yuan was complaining, the sports car drove all the way to the door of the ice cream shop. Squeak. Listening to the teeth grinding brake sound, the sports car stopped in front of the store. A brown-haired hedgehog-headed boy wearing sunglasses opened the car door in a chic manner, and the girls dressed like cheerleaders in the car also got out one after another. Master Ziomeo's parking action is so handsome. Master Ziomeo actually stopped the car to buy us ice cream. I'm so touched. The chirping voices of a group of young women poured into the ice cream shop that was originally quiet. Ziomeo? Luo Yuan looked carefully at the hedgehog-headed boy, surrounded by a group of women. Who else could it be, if not Professor Oak's grandson Oak? My memory is a bit weak. Luo Yuan knocked his head. He had been thinking about Team Rocket recently. He didn't react to the red sports car in the support group at first. Moreover, according to his previous memory, he seemed to know Ziomao. He still remembered that when he was a child, his previous self and Ziomao pulled the tail of the green caterpillar together and were chased by a group of Butterfree. Say hello. After all, the previous self and the other party are friends. Thinking of this, Luo Yuan walked over. Ziomao. Luo Yuan greeted. Long time no see. You are Luo Yuan? Ziomao took off his sunglasses and showed a surprised look. Why are you here? But before he could continue speaking, there was a sudden brake sound outside again, and Junsha jumped off the motorcycle. From a distance, Junsha shouted to Ziomao and his group, owner of the red sports car, you are suspected of serious overloading. Please show your driver's license immediately. Luo Yuan glanced at Ziomao, and Ziomao's face was embarrassed. The two had just met, and he was approached by Junsha, which was really embarrassing. However, since Junsha had come to him, he didn't care about pretending at this time. He quickly put his sunglasses in his pocket and ran to Junsha to explain in a low voice. In the end, he persuaded Miss Junsha to forgive him as a rookie trainer and was fined 10,000 yuan and warned. Looking at Miss Junsha's back and the ticket in his hand, Ziomeo wanted to cry, but had no tears. This story tells us not to drive dangerously. Luo Yuan silently complained in his heart. However, as a friend, he certainly couldn't rub salt into Ziomeo's wounds at this time. At least he had to give Ziomeo some face. Luo Yuan consciously didn't mention Ziomeo's fine. Are you here to challenge the gym too? Ziomeo was relieved to hear that Luo Yuan didn't mention that he was fined for overloading, and then he was surprised and asked, how did you know? Of course I'm here to challenge the gym too. Luo Yuan smiled slightly. But I remember you became a Pokémon prosecutor, didn't you? Ziomao asked in confusion. In Ziomao's impression, Luo Yuan entered the Pokémon prosecutor system as an outstanding graduate. I had no choice. I was pushed out as a scapegoat by a family member. I couldn't stand the anger, so I resigned. It was just the right time to become a trainer and walk around. Luo Yuan shrugged his shoulders and said, there is such a thing. Who is it? Tell me, I guarantee he will be in trouble. Ziomao was immediately angry when he heard this. He actually dared to bully his friend, Oak Mao. Did he really think that the influence of their Oak family in the league was fake? Okay, I will avenge this hatred later, so don't worry about it. Luo Yuan was still very moved by Ziomao's statement that he could stand up and help him, but he really didn't take the guy who tripped him seriously. He would fight the Rockets whenever he wanted, and he would get rid of that kind of stuff at will when he had the chance, so he didn't need to take it to heart at all. Seeing that Luo Yuan really didn't mean to force it, Ziomao was relieved and smiled and punched Luo Yuan's shoulder with his fist. How about it? How many badges have you got? 1. The grey badge of Nabijim. Hearing Luo Yuan's answer, Ziomao, who wanted to show off, was a little depressed. Okay, I also have 1, but I will definitely get the blue badge of Hualanjin before you. Ziomao vowed. Oh. Luo Yuan smiled slightly, then you will be disappointed. There are many people challenging Hualanjin today, and they have already started queuing. I have already queued, so you are destined to be behind me. Ziomao looked up at the sky. No, I have to queue up too. After buying ice cream for his girlfriends, Ziomao immediately took Luo Yuan and ran towards Hualanjin. Hualanjin, hey? Boss, why are you back? It's not your turn yet. Yangtze asked when he saw Luo Yuan and Xiao Mao, who suddenly ran in. My friend, Xiao Mao, he is also queuing up. Luo Yuan pointed at Xiao Mao and said, then pointed at Yangtze and said to Xiao Mao, this is my new little brother. The two greeted each other. Yangtze, where is the progress now? After this one is over, it will be my turn next. But what? But the three Hulan sisters seem to have no extra Pokémon. Yangtze said. Miss Sakura's Pokémon is the only one left, and Miss Akorus's Pokémon are all in the Pokémon Center. Only Miss Peony has 3 Pokémon left. In other words, Luo Yuan had a bad feeling. In other words, I'm afraid that, after I complete the challenge, you, boss, won't be able to continue the challenge. Yangtze was obviously embarrassed when he said this. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42 Eating. Luo Yuan felt that he was unlucky today. First, he was the last in the lottery, and now it was almost his turn. Puff. Xiao Mao at the side thought that he had no hope of challenging, and could only wait until tomorrow. He didn't expect Luo Yuan to be so unlucky. He patted Luo Yuan on the shoulder, as if we were both in trouble. Seeing Luo Yuan's face full of resentment, Yangtze said, how about we change the order of the challenge? I can come tomorrow. Yangtze knew how to be a younger brother. Seeing Luo Yuan's face full of resentment, he immediately spoke up and took the initiative to give way. Hearing Yangtze's words, Luo Yuan took a deep breath and shook his head. No need, you go first. He was not a person who liked to sacrifice others to satisfy himself, especially in such a small matter. Hearing Luo Yuan say this, Yangtze looked at the trainer who had successfully obtained the badge in front of him, and then looked at Luo Yuan to make sure that Luo Yuan was not being polite, and took out the Pokeball and walked up. Yuji from Golden City vs. Mutant, the gym trainer of the Cerulean Gym. The result of the battle is unquestionable. Although Yuji is a little weak, he has grown a lot in the battle with Team Rocket in the Tsukiyama Tunnel. Moreover, he is fighting against opponents of the level of the Cerulean Sisters. It is not difficult to win. The Cerulean Sisters gave Yuji a blue badge as usual, and looked at Luo Yuan and the remaining trainers with an apologetic look. Sorry, everyone, if you want to challenge the gym, I'm afraid you have to wait until tomorrow. As you can see, our Pokémon have all lost their combat capabilities. Looking at their skilled appearance, it is obviously not the first time this has happened. Don't you have any contingency plans? For example, backup Pokémon or something? Xiao Mao couldn't help asking. Several trainers who came behind him heard Xiao Mao's question, and nodded and looked at the Cerulean Sisters, waiting for their answer. The 3 sisters of Cerulean were somewhat embarrassed. The eldest sister Sakura said apologetically, I'm really sorry, there are only so many Pokémon in the gym. You can register, and queue up here, and come back tomorrow. They said so, what else can we do? Luo Yuan nodded to accept this statement. He was not in a hurry to leave Cerulean City. It would be nice to stay here for a few days and enjoy the scenery of Cerulean City. After asking about the opening time of tomorrow's gym, and saying goodbye to Yangtze, Luo Yuan and Xiao Mao found a restaurant to solve the problem of lunch. Luo Yuan, are you really not going to be a Pokémon prosecutor? You have studied in the prosecutor school for so many years. If you resign now, won't all your efforts be wasted? Xiao Mao asked, while sitting on the sofa. There is nothing to miss. Luo Yuan shrugged. Being a Pokémon trainer is not bad. It's free and I feel it's easier to achieve results than being a Pokémon prosecutor. Being a trainer has more prospects. Pokémon prosecutors often want to be promoted in years, and they must accumulate enough merits. As long as a Pokémon trainer is strong enough, he can become a gym trainer, a league king, or a league champion, which is much more comfortable than being a Pokémon prosecutor. That's right. Xiao Mao agreed with Luo Yuan's words. Looking at the many big figures in the league, most of them were very famous trainers when they were young. Not to mention the champions and kings of the league. Let's talk about Professor Oak. When he was young, he was also quite famous as a trainer in the league. If it weren't for this, why didn't he use his grandfather Professor Oak's good advantage to become a Pokémon researcher, but instead became a Pokémon trainer? By the way, have you heard about that incident? Xiaomao asked, after taking a sip of juice. What is it? That's the one, the discovery of a large number of moonstones in Yujian Mountain. Xiaomao said, I heard that it involved Team Rocket and the president of the League Pokémon Mining Association in Nibi City. I heard that the cause was a group of trainers fighting with Team Rocket in Yujian Mountain, which resulted in the arrest of Team Rocket's cadres. I know. Luo Yuan looked calm. Didn't you come to Cerulean City before? How did you know? Xiaomao looked confused. He wanted to show off to Luo Yuan. He got this information from Nibi City on the way here. How could Luo Yuan know it? Because I was the one who captured Team Rocket. Luo Yuan smiled. Of course he knew that he did it, but he didn't expect Xiaomao to mention it to him. Xiaomao looked unconvinced. Don't joke, how is it possible? There are so many Team Rockets and Team Rocket cadres, at least dozens of Pokémon prosecutors will have a chance to capture them. Although Team Rocket is slightly inferior to the Alliance in terms of strength, it is definitely one of the best in terms of escape methods. In order to capture so many Team Rockets, the Alliance must at least send out elite forces equal to Team Rocket. You don't believe it? Luo Yuan smiled. Of course not. Xiaomao replied casually. As he spoke, he looked at Luo Yuan, but found that Luo Yuan had a serious expression on his face. No way. Is it really you who did it? Originally, he thought Luo Yuan was just saying it casually, but Xiaomao was not sure after seeing Luo Yuan's expression. In his memory, Luo Yuan was rarely so serious. Could it be that the capture of so many Team Rockets was really Luo Yuan's credit? Luo Yuan smiled slightly and reached into his backpack. Bang, a moonstone was placed on the table, followed by the second, the third. Only when Luo Yuan had 5 moonstones in front of him did he stop and look at Xiaomao. Xiaomao's mouth was already wide open, stunned. Chapter 43, Battle with Xiaomao. Did you really do it? Although he didn't believe that Luo Yuan could stop so many Team Rockets by himself according to normal thinking logic, the moonstone in front of him made him believe it. What's the benefit of me lying to you? Luo Yuan asked back. Xiaomao thought about it, and it was indeed the case. He didn't think Luo Yuan would lie to him. The previous question was just so shocking. I didn't expect that you caught those Team Rockets. Xiaomao was amazed. That was a Team Rocket cadre. It was a great achievement for a group of League prosecutors. Now Luo Yuan did it. I wonder if those guys who made Luo Yuan resign would feel slapped in the face. Correction, it's not just me. There are more than 30 trainers who caught the Team Rocket with me. Luo Yuan laughed. Okay, don't be modest. Don't you have any idea of the strength of the trainers in the league now? Xiaomao waved his hand to interrupt Luo Yuan. As the grandson of Professor Oak, Xiaomao is not like Xiaozi who is completely in the dark about the current overall situation of the league. The Quartz conference has just ended a few days ago. Some trainers with good strength are all in the Quartz Plateau and have not returned yet. Even if there are some trainers with good strength, Xiaomao does not believe that they can deal with the leaders of Team Rocket. And looking at the number of moonstones on the table, Luo Yuan was able to get so many moonstones as trophies. It can be judged that Luo Yuan definitely put a lot of effort in this. Let's go fight. Let me see your true strength. Xiaomao suddenly seemed to remember something and said excitedly. Luo Yuan was not surprised that Xiaomao challenged him, because this was in line with Xiaomao's usual style of doing things. But he was a little speechless about the time Xiaomao chose. Now, he had just finished his meal and had not had time to digest it. Yes, now, there is no time to lose. I rented a training ground before coming to the Hualan gym. Xiaomao acted decisively and did what he said. He immediately dragged Luo Yuan, who had not had time to digest it, to the battle venue in the suburbs of Hualan City. I say, is it necessary to be so anxious? Vigorous exercise after a meal can easily cause stomach problems. Luo Yuan was speechless. We're already at the training ground. You won't be afraid, right? Xiaomao teased, deliberately provoking Luo Yuan. Luo Yuan only replied in 2 words. Then he held his hands to his chest. Whether you plan to play 1v1, 3v3 or 5v5, no matter how you want to play, I will accept it. Hearing Luo Yuan's confident words, Xiao Mao hesitated for a moment. 3v3. 3 Pokémon per person, and Pokémon cannot be changed during the battle. In the end, Xiao Mao decided to have a 3v3 duel. Although he caught a lot of Pokémon, only 3 of them could become his main Pokémon. Okay, so let's start now. Luo Yuan asked Xiao Mao. Start. Xiao Mao gestured to his support group not far away, and one of the support group walked to the referee's seat and picked up the small flag used by the referee. The two sides of the competition are Master Xiao Mao from Pallet Town and Luo Yuan from Fuchsia City. Luo Yuan. If Luo Yuan remembered correctly, the predecessor of this body should be from Fuchsia City. The two sides of the competition are Master Xiao Mao from Pallet Town and Luo Yuan from Fuchsia City. The rules of the competition are 3v3 elimination battles, and Pokémon cannot be changed in the middle. Now the game begins. As soon as the voice fell, Luo Yuan and Xiao Mao threw the Pokéball at the same time. Leaf Elf, go. Leave it to you, Pidgeot. The pale yellow body and elegant posture of the Leaf Elf, with long red feathers on its head, looked at the very powerful Pidgeot, and the two Pokémon appeared on the field at almost the same time. Someone is fighting. Let's go and see. Let's go together. Seeing the battle here, many trainers who were originally training Pokémon in the training ground came over and formed a circle around it. Leaf Elf, what Pokémon is this? Xiao Mao scanned it with the Pokédex several times, but failed to find it, and asked Luo Yuan with a confused face. Don't reveal your Pokémon's information to the enemy during the battle. Luo Yuan smiled. TSK, if you don't tell me, I'll observe it myself. Xiao Mao said, still looking nonchalant the second before he finished speaking, and then he made a decisive move with a wave of his hand. Pidgeot, attack with a peck. Xiao Mao attacked unexpectedly. The Pidgeot in the sky seemed to have long been accustomed to Xiao Mao's command. It flapped its wings, accelerated its body, and stabbed the Leaf Elf on the ground like a cone, trying to catch Luo Yuan and the Leaf Elf off guard. But Luo Yuan was prepared. He always had a very strict attitude towards fighting. From the moment the referee dropped the flag, Luo Yuan's nerves entered a state of tension. Leaf Elf, get out of the way. Under Luo Yuan's command, the Leaf Elf jumped nimbly and avoided the Pidgeot that fell from the sky. Boom. The Pidgeot's peck directly pierced the ground, leaving a deep hole in the ground, which showed the power of this attack. Not bad, Xiao Mao. Luo Yuan looked at the power of the Pidgeot's attack and said, a move that couldn't be more ordinary can make you use such power. Of course. Damn it, Luo Yuan, you are cheating. Xiao Mao was about to respond when he saw the Leaf Elf gently shaking its ears and tail, and 3 flying leaf knives shot towards the Pidgeot in a triangular shape. The flying leaf knives were very fast, tearing through the air with a sharp whistle. Pidgeot, get out of the way. Xiao Mao immediately ordered. The Pidgeot, who was locked by the flying leaf knives, also knew the seriousness of the matter and immediately took off into the air to avoid the flying leaf knives. Chapter 44. Usage of Seed Bombs. Can you dodge the Leaf Elf's flying leaf blade just because you want to? Luo Yuan smiled as he looked at the Pidgeot bird flapping its wings to increase its flying altitude. 3 flying leaf blades flew in 3 directions, as if being pulled by an invisible line, drawing 3 beautiful arcs in the air and shooting at the Pidgeot bird from 3 directions. The Pidgeot bird's Rapidrise did work, dodging the first flying leaf blade, but was hit by the next 2 flying leaf blades. A bunch of red feathers fell from the sky. The Leaf Elf's flying leaf blade brushed past the Pidgeot bird's head, almost cutting off all the feathers on its head, turning the Pidgeot bird into a bald bird. This made the Pidgeot bird, which originally looked very majestic, become funny. Xiao Mao was stunned for a moment when he saw this situation. Pidgeot. Then he reacted instantly and yelled at Luo Yuan. Luo Yuan. Ahem. Sorry, it was an accident. A complete accident. Luo Yuan looked at Pidgeot, whose head was shaved bald by Leaf Elf, and said sorry, but he couldn't stop smiling. This was indeed an accident. Leaf Elf was originally aiming at Pidgeot's wings, but who knew that Pidgeot's movements were too big and it actually exposed the feathers on its head to Leaf Elf's flying leaf knife. You're still laughing. Xiaomao saw the expression on Luo Yuan's face and his mentality exploded. Of course, this is not Luo Yuan's fault, because compared to the trainers who were watching on the side and had already laughed out loud, Luo Yuan could still hold back his laughter. But Xiaomao didn't care. Seeing Pidgeot like this, Xiaomao said he had to fight back. Pipido, go, use the fierce blast. Are you serious? Luo Yuan put away his smile when he saw Xiaomao's serious expression and stretched out his hand to command the leaf spirit to fight. Leaf spirit, magic leaf. Following the direction of Luo Yuan's finger, a large leaf shot towards Pipido, but it collided with Pipido's fierce blast in midair, and the two merged into a green storm. Under Pipido's fierce blast, the leaf spirit tried its best to control the magic leaf to get rid of the fierce blast, but because the force area of the leaf was too large, the leaf spirit was not much higher than Pipido, so it was powerless. The situation is a bit unfavorable for the leaf spirit. The trainers who were watching around said. Even in the absence of attribute restraint, the flying type has a great impact on Pokémon of other attributes, not to mention facing the leaf spirit restrained by Pipido. This statement attracted the approval of many trainers. When facing Pokémon that cannot fly, flying Pokémon naturally have the advantage of controlling the air. Xiaomao's expression did not change when he heard the discussion of the trainers around him. This was a matter of course in his eyes. Although he had let Luo Yuan's Leaf Elf take advantage of him because of his carelessness, under the condition of attribute restraint, Pidgeot had a great advantage against Leaf Elf. Seeing that the magic leaf was gradually out of control of the Leaf Elf in the storm, Luo Yuan decisively ordered, Leaf Elf, let the magic leaf explode. Instead of wasting energy to control the magic leaf that was obviously out of control, it was better to let it explode directly. Magoo. The Leaf Elf cried softly, agreeing with Luo Yuan's order. It had discovered that it could not control the magic leaf that was caught in the fierce storm, but it just didn't know what to do next. Under the control of the Leaf Elf, the magic leaf in the storm suddenly exploded. A series of explosions sounded, and the shock wave of the explosion destroyed the originally fierce storm, and could no longer be maintained, turning into a frenzy of airflow. These airflows were a big trouble for Pidgeot, who was circling in the sky. Pidgeot was swayed by the turbulent airflow in the sky. Taking this opportunity, the Leaf Elf on the ground suddenly condensed a seed bomb. Leaf Elf, use your tail to hit the seed bomb. During this period, Luo Yuan has been training the Leaf Elf to use the Iron Tail. Although the training has not been successful yet, it has achieved initial results. A silver-white light flashed at the position of the Leaf Elf's tail. The Leaf Elf used all its limbs to suddenly jump up and hit the seed bomb that had just condensed into the sky. Of course, the target was only Pidgeot, which was trapped in the airflow. Will it hit? The trainer who was watching was a little stunned when he saw the operation of the Leaf Elf. Because of the size and weight of the seeds used as bombs, seed bombs are generally used to deal with large and bulky Pokémon. This is the first time to use them to deal with Pidgeot, a flying type. You should know that Pidgeot's evolved form, Pidgeot, can even reach Mach 2. Although Pidgeot is not as good as Pidgeot, it is still easy for Pidgeot to avoid the seed bomb that is so obvious. Pidgeot, be careful to dodge. Seeing the seed bombs passing through the parabola in the air, Xiaomao didn't care too much. His idea was the same as the trainers around him. His Pidgeot couldn't be hit by such a clumsy move, so he just reminded Pidgeot to be careful to dodge. Seeing the seed bombs falling along the arc of the parabola in the air, Pidgeot was about to bypass the falling position of the seed bombs and the turbulent airflow. Luo Yuan snapped his fingers. Leaf Sprite, use the Leaf Blade to adjust the trajectory of the seed bombs. Use the Leaf Blade to adjust the trajectory of the seed bombs. What kind of operation is this? Can the trajectory of the seed bombs still change in the sky? Just when the trainers and Xiaomao were confused, the Leaf Sprite on the ground shot out 3 Leaf Blades. The Leaf Blade was launched later in the sky but arrived first. It quickly approached the falling seed bombs, and then everyone saw the Leaf Blade lightly knocked on the seed bombs 3 times in a row at 3 different locations. The seed bomb that was about to deviate from the Pidgeot bad was repositioned and smashed towards the location where the Pidgeot bad was. Chapter 45, Catty Dog. Boom. This time, Pidgeot didn't dodge Leaf Elf's attack. The seed bomb temporarily changed its flight trajectory, catching Pidgeot off guard. In addition, there was air current in the air that interfered with Pidgeot's flight state, so Pidgeot was directly hit by the seed bomb. Seeing Pidgeot falling from the sky like a kite with a broken string, Leaf Elf used the magic leaf without Luo Yuan's reminder. The magic leaf flew out, and with a burst of explosions, Pidgeot fell to the ground with a charred body, losing its combat ability. SSS Country 1. Unexpected. The onlookers exclaimed. They had predicted that Leaf Elf's seed bomb would not hit, and they thought it was a done deal. But they didn't expect Leaf Elf to use the flying leaf knife to forcibly change the direction of the seed bomb in midair so that the seed bomb hit Pidgeot. What is involved here is not just as simple as a light collision. Strictly speaking, this involves very complex geometry knowledge, which is why the Leaf Elf's operation is even more shocking. How was this Leaf Elf trained? All the trainers looked at Luo Yuan, thinking that after the game, they must ask Luo Yuan for advice on how to train Pokémon. If their Pokémon can also learn this trick, it will be a great help for them to challenge the gym. Master Xiaomao. Xiaomao's supporters on the side saw that Pidgeot had lost its ability to fight, and they immediately became dejected, as if it was not Xiaomao who lost the game but themselves. Please send out the second Pokémon. The referee lady did not become dejected. She fulfilled her referee's duties very seriously and said to Xiaomao. Only after she finished saying this did she blush and add to Xiaomao, Master Xiaomao, come on, don't lose to the guy on the opposite side. Luo Yuan had a question mark on his head. How did he become the guy on the opposite side? Of course, Luo Yuan didn't focus on this. He looked at Xiaomao carefully, waiting for him to take out the second Pokémon. You won the first game, but the second game won't be so easy. My second Pokémon is this one. Xiaomao looked at Luo Yuan seriously and sent out his second Pokémon amid the cheers of the crazy girls in his fan club. An aggressive growler appeared in the field, staring at the leaf sprite. Baring its teeth, it let out a threatening growl. It's actually Growler, a trainer exclaimed. How can such a rare Pokémon be caught? A non-African had an expression of disbelief on his face. This Growler looks very strong. There were discussions on the sidelines. Growler? Luo Yuan frowned. To be honest, Growler was a great threat to the leaf sprite. The leaf sprite had already consumed a lot of physical strength in the battle with Pidgeot just now. Now facing Growler, whose attributes restrained it, and whose movements were agile, Luo Yuan didn't think he had much chance of winning. After weighing the pros and cons, Luo Yuan took back the Leaf Elf, just as the referee was about to announce the start of the game. It was just a friendly match, and Luo Yuan didn't want the shiny Leaf Elf to be roasted black by the Growlithe. Xiaomao looked at Luo Yuan with a puzzled look on his face. He was just about to use his Growlithe to avenge Pidgeot's boldness. So why did you take back the Leaf Elf? My Leaf Elf has no more energy. I admit defeat in this game. Luo Yuan smiled. Puff. Xiaomao covered his heart and had the urge to spit blood. He felt like he had swung his fist and used all his strength, but ended up hitting cotton. This feeling made him very crazy. But Luo Yuan had already admitted defeat in this game, and he had no choice. Xiaomao could only look at Luo Yuan with resentful eyes. Luo Yuan, what have you learned in the prosecutor's school all these years? Luo Yuan just smiled. Here's an expression for you to understand. In Xiaomao's depressed mood, Luo Yuan also released his second Pokémon. Gas, this battle is up to you. Ghastly, whose body was hidden in the black fog and only two sharp fangs were exposed, laughed. Gas. Xiaomao suddenly became nervous. Ghost-type Pokémon are not easy to deal with. The originally powerful Growlithe shuddered when he saw Ghastly. Woo, the original roar turned into a whimper, and the Growlithe's tail, which had been raised high, drooped down, and there was a look of fear in its eyes. With just one look, Luo Yuan knew that this Growlithe was afraid of ghosts. Xiaomao also noticed this. He never expected that the Growlithe that he had just captured, which performed very well in all aspects, would be afraid of ghosts. The scene was quite embarrassing. How can I fight this? Xiaomao looked at the shrinking Growlithe with a look of despair on his face. He felt that today was his unlucky day. First, he was fined by Miss Junsha for overloading. Then he went to challenge the gym and found that the gym trainer had no Pokémon that could fight. He lost the battle with Luo Yuan, and now he found that the Growlithe he regarded as his trump card was actually afraid of ghosts. No more fighting. No more fighting. I give up. Even Xiaomao, who never gives up easily, lost the interest in continuing to fight. Luo Yuan did not force Xiaomao. The friendly match between the two ended in such an anticlimactic way. Seeing that there was no battle to watch, the trainers on the sidelines dispersed. Some trainers came over to ask Luo Yuan about the secret of training leaf Pokémon, but Luo Yuan dismissed them casually, and the training ground returned to silence. Luo Yuan, do me a favor. Xiaomao came over and said to Luo Yuan seriously. Chapter 46. It was me first. Help. What help do you need? Luo Yuan asked in confusion. Based on his understanding of Xiaomao's character, he was not the type to ask for help easily, but now he suddenly asked for help, which made him very curious. Help me train Growlithe. When talking about Growlithe, Xiaomao had a very painful expression. He never thought that his Growlithe was afraid of ghosts, but he was also somewhat fortunate, and thanks to the battle with Luo Yuan, he knew this weakness of Growlithe. Now in this friendly match with Luo Yuan, it is still possible to make up for Growlithe's weakness as soon as possible. If it is discovered in the future battle with others, it will be too late. Train Growlithe. Luo Yuan did not expect Xiaomao to actually make this request. You mean, let me use Ghastly to help you train Growlithe's courage? Luo Yuan thought that Xiaomao should mean this. Yes please, Luo Yuan. Xiaomao said earnestly. Leave it to me. Ghastly was very depressed in the Pokeball, so this was a good opportunity for Ghastly to relax and enjoy the fun of scaring Growlithe. Then Luo Yuan released Ghastly. Xiaomao had no idea of Luo Yuan's evil thoughts. He just thought Luo Yuan was very considerate. After not seeing him for so long, he didn't seem to be as stingy as before. Growlithe, you and Ghastly should get acquainted first. With kind words of comfort, Xiaomao locked the frightened Growlithe and the laughing Ghastly in a room. Listening to Growlithe's whimpering and screaming through the door, Luo Yuan's mouth twitched. Your training is too simple and rough. However, as the grandson of Professor Oak, Xiaomao must have his reasons for training Pokémon like this. Luo Yuan did not ask questions. He waited for Luo Yuan to ask him why he did this. Xiaomao, who wanted to satisfy his desire to show off, couldn't help it. Luo Yuan, aren't you curious about why I put Growlithe and Ghastly together? Xiaomao asked indirectly. Not curious. Looking at Luo Yuan's half smile, Xiaomao was speechless. He knew that if he didn't take the initiative to ask, Luo Yuan really wouldn't ask. He had to lower his status and take the initiative to say, you should know about the current research on the personality of Pokémon in the league. Personality? Yes. In the game, the personality of Pokémon will affect the ability value of Pokémon and determine whether the Pokémon is inclined to attack or defend. There have been similar studies in the real world. Although the influence of personality on Pokémon will not be directly reflected in the ability value, in a sense, personality has a greater impact on Pokémon. You mean the reason you did that is related to Growlithe's personality? Luo Yuan asked. Yes, according to my research, Growlithe has an introverted personality. If you want Growlithe to slowly get in touch with Ghastly and get rid of its fear of ghost type Pokémon, it will take at least 1 or 2 years. There is still a year before the Quartz conference, and I can't wait that long. Okay. Luo Yuan agreed with Xiaomao's idea. Although it might be a bit pitiful for Growlithe, there is nothing in this world that can be obtained without paying. Growlithe still has to go through this hardship if he wants to overcome his own weaknesses. But did you really defeat the Rocket Team's leaders? Your Pokémon don't look very strong. Although Luo Yuan defeated him, Xiaomao didn't think that he could defeat the Rocket Team's leaders with these 2 Pokémon after seeing Luo Yuan's Leaf Sprite and Ghastly. Don't believe it? Luo Yuan smiled slightly and raised his hand to release Onyx. Suddenly, a huge shadow enveloped the entire training ground. Xiaomao looked up and met Onyx with a pair of big eyes. The atmosphere was stagnant at this moment. Onyx, Xiaomao shouted, his voice rising several notes. How did you catch it? He had never expected that Luo Yuan's main force was actually an Onyx. Onyx is a very powerful Pokémon, but it is known for its rarity and difficulty to catch. The bounty in Nabi City. Luo Yuan turned his head and looked at Xiaomao, who was a little dazed, and said, "It's the bounty posted by the Mining Association." As he said that, he patted Onyx's body, and Onyx immediately curled up obediently and lay in the training ground with its body coiled. Seeing Onyx being as obedient as a puppy under Luo Yuan's hands, Xiaomao was stunned. "You mean, this is the Onyx entrenched in the mine?" After digesting the information in Luo Yuan's words, Xiaomao's mentality not only did not return to calm, but became even more turbulent. When he first arrived in Nabi City, he wanted to catch some powerful Pokémon, and he also collected information about this Onyx, but Onyx's daunting record really made it difficult for him to have the desire to challenge. "I didn't expect that he would be conquered by Luo Yuan. This is really..." Xiaomao's mood is very complicated and hard to describe. He has to admit that he is a little jealous of Luo Yuan. To put it in one sentence, it was obviously me who was there first, whether it was setting off, arriving in Nabi City, or finding the information about Onyx. It was obviously me who was there first. But how did things turn out like this? How could Luo Yuan be so much stronger than me? He sighed deeply. At this point, Xiaomao felt that he did not lose unfairly. He would definitely not be able to beat this Onyx, and this should be the reason why Luo Yuan was able to capture the Rocket Team cadres. He thought so. Suddenly everything made sense. Of course, Xiaomao did not notice that he had overlooked a detail. Luo Yuan captured the Rocket Team with Onyx, but how did Luo Yuan capture Onyx? He ignored this question. Chapter 47, Steel Snake. Leaf Elf, you continue to train Ninetale and try to master it thoroughly today. BUI. Following Luo Yuan's instructions, Leaf Elf began to try to use Ninetale against a wooden target. Bulbasaur, try to use photosynthesis. Bulbasaur's level is too low now, and Luo Yuan does not expect him to improve his combat effectiveness in a short time, so the training tasks assigned to Bulbasaur focus more on growth. The move of photosynthesis has something in common with Sunblaze. If Bulbasaur learns photosynthesis before evolving, there is a certain probability that he will directly learn Sunblaze after evolving. Seed. Bulbasaur likes his training tasks very much, because training photosynthesis is like lying in the sun and sunbathing for it. Metagross is already strong enough, so there is no need to train for the time being. Ghastly is accompanying Growlithe to practice courage, so he can't participate in the training. Only Onyx is left. Luo Yuan looked at Onyx in front of him. To be honest, Onyx would not improve much if it continued to train at this level. If it wanted to become stronger, it could only rely on consuming various rare minerals to increase its physical strength. Compared with evolving Onyx into Steelix, this method was much less cost effective. How about evolving Onyx here? It was no secret that Onyx could evolve. After all, this was the real world, and there was no air wall between Kanto and Chengdu. It was just that Onyx was rare in Kanto. After hesitating for 3 seconds between evolving Onyx and not evolving Onyx, Luo Yuan decisively chose to evolve Onyx. He did not choose to evolve it before, because Onyx's wounds had not healed yet. Now that the cracks had healed, he would naturally not wait any longer. Luo Yuan took out the metal membrane from the system space. Unlike the palm-sized evolution stone, the metal membrane was quite large. It was not a membrane, but a silver metal cylinder half a meter high, which looked very hard. How to use this thing? Luo Yuan looked at the metal film and searched the training manual he had obtained before in his mind. He remembered that, when he played games in his previous life, the illustrations had 2 theories about how Onyx evolved into Steelix. One was that it evolved after years of high temperature and high pressure forging underground, and the other was that it ate steel and accumulated it, causing changes in its body. According to his idea, the metal film should be melted and then forged into Onyx under high pressure. But without a definite answer, Luo Yuan dared not try it easily. However, before he finished searching, he saw Onyx, who was lying on the ground, looking at the metal film, as if he saw something delicious. Woo. Finally, Onyx could not hold back and swallowed the metal film in one gulp while Luo Yuan was not paying attention. The process of searching for memory was interrupted. Luo Yuan was shocked when he looked at Onyx. You really dare to eat anything? Hey, spit it out quickly, you can't eat that thing carelessly. Onyx was a little reluctant after hearing Luo Yuan's words, but it dared not disobey Luo Yuan's order. It didn't want to be beaten up by Metagross again. He made a vomiting motion and vomited for a long time, but there was nothing except scattered stone slag. Can't vomit anymore? No way. The metal film that he won in the lottery was swallowed by Onyx. If it was wasted like this, he would really want to cry, but have no tears. Exclamation mark. Just when Luo Yuan was about to explode, suddenly, without any warning, a dazzling white light lit up from Onyx. Xiao Mao, who was chatting with his girlfriends, was attracted by the light. He turned his head and saw the situation here and was stunned. Onyx evolved. Without caring to continue chatting, Xiao Mao immediately came over. The trainers who had originally dispersed also came over. This is the first time I see Onyx evolving. Everyone looked at the figure that gradually changed shape in the white light. Although there have been studies that prove that Onyx can evolve into Steelix, the captured Steelix are often naturally evolved. Because the price of metal film is extremely high, very few trainers actually evolve from Onyx to Steelix. Even fewer trainers could witness the evolution of Onyx into Steelix. Everyone stared at it intently, and Luo Yuan also stared at Onyx wrapped in the light of evolution. After a long time, the light faded away, and a matte silver-gray Steelix with sharp edges and a flat head appeared in the venue. The evolved Steelix had a metallic texture all over its body. In addition to the head, the 3 pairs of stick-like protrusions appeared at the joints, and the tail became a sharp cone. Overall, Steelix looked more aggressive than Onyx before. Airboom. Steelix roared to the sky, with a clear metallic clang in his voice. It was announcing its new life in this way. Chapter 48 Before the Cerulean Gym. Onyx evolved into Steelix in an instant. The metallic body and the strong appearance made the trainers who were watching very envious. If there was such a Steelix, challenging the gym would be much easier. Many people thought of this, and some even had the idea of going to Yujian Mountain to catch your Onyx. Steelix. Luo Yuan, you can actually get the metal membrane? Xiao Mao said in disbelief. It's not that he was making a fuss, because he also had a metal membrane, and it was a gift from his father, before he set out on his journey. It was said that it cost a lot of money. He always treated this metal membrane as a treasure, thinking about when to catch a Scyther, to evolve it into a giant claw. Unexpectedly, Luo Yuan also had a metal membrane in his hand, and he evolved Onyx into Steelix right in front of him. I got it by chance. Luo Yuan still had a smiling expression. You are so lucky. Xiao Mao was really envious now, without any politeness. They were all Pokémon trainers who started out at the same time this year. Luo Yuan had already used Steelix, but he was still worried about Growlithe's fear of ghosts. Are you jealous? Luo Yuan asked. Envy. Xiao Mao was still immersed in envy and subconsciously expressed his thoughts. Luo Yuan followed up with a sentence. You can't envy it. In Xiao Mao's expression of wanting to hit him, Luo Yuan pretended to know nothing and helped Steelix adapt to his new body after evolution. There was no conversation that night. The next morning, Luo Yuan and Xiao Mao walked on the streets of Cerulean City in the early morning, heading towards the Cerulean Gym. I say, Luo Yuan, do you need to get up so early? Xiao Mao yawned, with 2 dark circles under his eyes, and looked very sleepy. Of course I have to get up early. Do you want to repeat yesterday's situation? What if the 3 sisters of Cerulean are defeated by others again? Do you still have to wait until tomorrow? Xiao Mao thought about it carefully and nodded helplessly. Okay, you have a point. He was originally the kind of impatient person. If he had to wait for another day, he would collapse. We are here. The gate of the Huolan Gym was right in front of him. However, the scene in the Huolan Gym was a little different from what Xiao Mao had imagined, and the difference was mainly reflected in the number of people. Why are there so many people? Xiao Mao found that there were dozens of people walking towards the gate of the Huolan Gym, and they seemed to be faster than them. He immediately looked frustrated. He had gotten up so early. Why were there so many people? Is this fair? Aren't gyms usually quite deserted, with only a few challenges a day? Why are there so many people here? Is someone targeting him? Xiao Mao, who had a slight paranoia, thought so. What should I do? Luo Yuan. Xiao Mao subconsciously looked at Luo Yuan, wanting to ask Luo Yuan if he had any solution. But he found that Luo Yuan had already walked up on his own. Leave it to me. Luo Yuan, who saw many familiar figures in front of him, waved his hand. Hey, wait a minute. Hey, Luo Yuan, what are you doing? Are you going to? Xiao Mao thought Luo Yuan was going to fight with these trainers, and shouted quickly. Although he is the grandson of Professor Oak, and one of the rich second generations in Kanto, Xiao Mao does not have any of the bad habits of those rich second generations, except for overloading. However, before he could finish his sentence, he saw a scene that made his eyes pop out. The trainers who were walking to the door of the Cerulean Gym, after being stopped by Luo Yuan, not only did not have any angry expressions on their faces, instead, they all looked very admiring. It's Boss Luo Yuan. Boss Luo Yuan, you are here to challenge the gym too? Boss, you go first. A large number of flattering voices came like a tide. Xiao Mao was stunned. What's wrong with these trainers? Do they know Luo Yuan, or what? No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't figure out why so many trainers would call Luo Yuan boss. Luo Yuan also smiled and responded, "Good morning, everyone." Seeing Luo Yuan chatting with these trainers, Xiao Mao was confused. What's going on? Are you familiar with Luo Yuan? Xiao Mao asked the trainer next to him. You don't know? The trainer next to him looked confused and said to him with a smile and a boastful tone, Boss Luo Yuan is a super expert. He led us to defeat a whole group of Rocket Team at Yujian Mountain. There were even Rocket Team cadres. We admire him very much. Moon Viewing Mountain Rocket Team. From this person's mouth, Xiao Mao roughly understood what was going on. It was probably that Luo Yuan had led these trainers to defeat the Rocket Team before, and as a result, these trainers began to admire him and became Luo Yuan's fans. Their behavior at this time was roughly the same as when fans see their idols. Luo Yuan, this guy, he has always been proud of his fan club, but he didn't expect Luo Yuan to have so many fans without saying anything. Thinking of this, Xiao Mao suddenly felt a faint sadness. Why did he suddenly feel that he was crushed in all aspects? When Xiao Mao was thinking about it, Luo Yuan came back. Okay, let's fight first. The crowd automatically opened a path for Luo Yuan and Xiao Mao to pass. Luo Yuan and Xiao Mao were able to enter the Hulan Gym. Miss Sakura, we are here to challenge the gym. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49, Goldfish King. The gym challenge begins now. The challenger is Luo Yuan, a rookie trainer from Crimson City, and the challenged is Sakura, a gym trainer from Cerulean Gym. The rules of the game are 3v3 standard gym battle rules. Peony was still the referee. Sakura was still as heroic as ever. However, Luo Yuan, who knew Sakura's strength, would not be fooled by her this time. Because Cerulean Gym was full of water-type Pokémon, Luo Yuan did not need to consider the problem of attribute restraint. He just threw out the Pokeball containing Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur, the first battle is up to you. This was a rare opportunity for Bulbasaur to level up. After all, apart from those wild Pokémon that were as weak as they could be in the wild, and those shorts-clad bug-catching boys, there were very few trainers who were so weak. Seed. Bulbasaur was full of fighting spirit. These days, he had been watching Leafeon, Onix, and Metagross easily defeating their opponents in the Pokeball, and Bulbasaur had also developed a yearning for battle and victory. Goldfish King, come out. With Sakura's gorgeous movements, a Goldfish King that was a bit more aggressive and powerful than the horned goldfish appeared in the swimming pool. Goldfish King? I remember that you only had the horned goldfish before. Did the horned goldfish evolve? Luo Yuan asked. Yes, after yesterday's battle, my horned goldfish has evolved. Now I'm not as weak as before. It is not so easy to take the Pokémon badge from me. The evolution of the horned goldfish gave her a lot of confidence, and Sakura was full of fighting spirit. Although the three sisters did not like Pokémon battles and liked water ballet more, they were in the position of Pokémon trainers and were called the weakest gym trainers in Kanto. They were easily defeated every time, but they also felt frustrated after losing too much. In the past, they were too lazy to train Pokémon, so they were always beaten by the trainers who came to challenge. Now that the horned goldfish has evolved into a goldfish king, she feels that this time she seems to be able to save some face as a gym trainer of the Cerulean Gym. Luo Yuan smiled slightly when he heard her words, and he couldn't deny it. A goldfish king wants to beat him? How naive. Even if Bulbasaur can't beat him, have you asked his leaf elf and Metagross? Sakura didn't know what Luo Yuan was thinking. She waved her hand and shouted with great momentum, "We attack first, Goldfish King, use Water Wave." Unlike the horned goldfish that only used moves like Water Gun before, Goldfish King learned several very powerful moves when it evolved. Water Wave uses the vibration force of water to attack the opponent, and there is a certain probability that the opponent will fall into a state of confusion. Goldfish King used Water Wave, and a thick water column shot towards Bulbasaur. Seeing this scene, Luo Yuan couldn't help but complain. "I say, using a water type move to attack the grass type Bulbasaur, are you trying to water my Bulbasaur? Using Water Wave to attack Bulbasaur is simply a thankless task. Not only is the damage not good, but it is also easy to expose the position of Goldfish King. If it were him, he would definitely not be so stupid. He would choose to use the advantage of the field to hide his tracks and approach Bulbasaur's floating board from underwater, and then jump up unexpectedly and attack with the indestructible horns of the King of Goldfish. That would definitely be much better than using the Water Wave to attack Bulbasaur directly." This time, Bulbasaur did not use Luo Yuan's command. He used all four hooves to jump from one floating board to another with the bulb like a bun on his back. At the same time, the vine whips stretched out, bypassing the water wave that shot out of the water and directly probing into the underwater, tying up the King of Goldfish. Sakura obviously did not expect this situation. She was not well prepared and had not received special combat training. She quickly shouted, "King of Goldfish, get out of the way." Perhaps it was a flash of inspiration, or perhaps it was a blessing in disguise. At the most critical moment, the King of Goldfish swung his tail, took advantage of the thrust of the water flow, and jumped high out of the water, avoiding the vine whip of Bulbasaur. When the Goldfish King was still a horned goldfish, it was very fast. The illustration said that, because of its well-developed dorsal and pectoral fins, horned goldfish can swim upstream at a speed of 5 knots in the water. After evolving into the Goldfish King, it is even better. Dodged. Sakura cheered. But before she could continue to be happy, she saw Bulbasaur standing on the float arched. The sound of bullets was heard, and a series of seeds were ejected from the bulb behind Bulbasaur. Papapa, the Goldfish King in the sky was shot directly, and its body was twisted and lost balance by the seed machine gun in the air. The originally very graceful entry posture turned into a crash into the water. The splash of water flew several meters high, splashing Sakura, who had not yet put away the happy expression on her face, and soaked her like a drowned chicken. The expression of joy froze on her face. Sakura experienced a transition from great sorrow to great joy, and then to great sorrow. The Goldfish King didn't stop after it fell into the water. Luo Yuan, who had been paying attention to the battle of Bulbasaur, naturally didn't think that Bulbasaur's seed machine gun alone could kill a Goldfish King. Although the trainer of this Goldfish King was very weak, it didn't mean that the Goldfish King was weak. After all, the Goldfish King was a Pokémon that could easily drill through the rock wall with the sharp horns on its head. Tie it up with the vine whip now. Bulbasaur immediately followed Luo Yuan's order. The vine whip that was originally under the water quickly drilled to the side of the Goldfish King like two dark green water snakes. Then, while the Goldfish King was stunned by the seed machine gun, he tied the Goldfish King up like a dumpling. Goldfish King. With Sakura's shout, the vine whip dragged the Goldfish King out of the water and held it in the air. No matter how the Goldfish King twisted his body, he had no way to break free. Parasitic seed. Bulbasaur spits out a seed from the bulb on its back and attaches it to the Goldfish King. The winner is decided. The Goldfish King has almost no fighting ability after leaving the water. So it can be said that the winner is already decided. Soon, the Goldfish King, which was tied up by the vine whip after leaving the water, spit bubbles in the air. Lost. Sakura looked frustrated. It is better not to give hope from the beginning than to cruelly destroy it. I feel a little guilty, Luo Yuan said while touching his chin when he saw Sakura's look. Chapter 50 Blue Badge. Of course, the thought of feeling guilty only flashed through his mind, and the game was not over yet. In the second game, Luo Yuan planned to continue using Bulbasaur. After taking back the Goldfish King, Sakura was in a dilemma. Should I use the Poliwag or the White Sea Lion? Luo Yuan had very sharp hearing, and he heard Sakura's dilemma from a distance. Actually, it doesn't matter what you use, Luo Yuan complained in his heart. However, such words were too hurtful to say, and Luo Yuan's emotional intelligence was not stupid enough to say such words directly. Finally, after a lot of entanglement, Sakura gritted her teeth and threw her second Pokeball. Poliwag, show your fighting spirit yesterday and win this game. Sakura didn't seem to give up yet. Fighting spirit yesterday? Luo Yuan was stunned for a moment, and the scene of Poliwag and the thunderbolt that he saw on the sidelines before appeared in his mind. Two black lines suddenly appeared on his head. Did Sakura equate his strength with the level of the previous trainers? They looked down on him too much. Luo Yuan felt that he had to show some strength to avoid being looked down upon. With this idea in mind, at the beginning of the battle, he directly said to the Bulbasaur who was ready to go, "Bulbasaur, fight quickly and decisively. Use the quick attack tactic." The quick attack tactic was a tactic specially formulated by Luo Yuan for his Pokémon. The characteristic is continuous attack, using rapid attacks to disrupt the opponent's rhythm, and then taking advantage of the opponent's panic and lack of time to react to take the opponent away in one wave. In a simple word, that is recklessness. Chamo. Bulbasaur nodded his flat head vigorously, and a rigorous and serious look flashed in his big eyes that looked cute on weekdays, and then he shook his body violently and threw out two flying leaf knives from behind. Facing the attack of Bulbasaur, Mosquito Tadpole was not to be outdone and shot a water gun at the flying leaf knives. However, the water gun of the water type is definitely no match for the grass type's special move, the leaf blade. After just one encounter, the leaf blade cut the water gun in half and then continued to shoot upstream at the mosquito-scented tadpole. The mosquito-scented tadpole was completely shocked because he did not expect that the opponent could actually cut off the water gun. The first leaf blade hit the mosquito-scented tadpole's body, hitting the center of the circle pattern on its belly, making the mosquito-scented tadpole scream in pain. The second leaf blade even knocked the mosquito-scented tadpole flying. This is not the end. The seed machine gun kept shooting, and a steady stream of seeds hit the mosquito-scented tadpole's body. Unlike the previous King Goldfish, the Pokémon of the mosquito-scented tadpole is much smaller than the King Goldfish, and was directly hit in the sky by the impact of the seed machine gun. The whole scene of spinning up to the sky. Then, two more leaf blades hit the mosquito-scented tadpole. Just like shooting at a moving target in the training ground, she shot down the mosquito coil tadpole with a spiral pattern on its belly in the sky. A series of attacks continued, leaving the mosquito coil tadpole no room to fight back. Bang, until the mosquito coil tadpole hit the floating board heavily. Sakura was still stunned. Who am I? Where am I? What happened just now? She was stunned by Luo Yuan's stormy attack. After a long time, she came to her senses and put the mosquito coil tadpole that had lost its ability to fight back into the Pokeball. She had already understood that Luo Yuan's strength was definitely not something she could deal with, and she had given up the idea of defeating Luo Yuan. It's better to be a salted fish in peace. It seems that being a Pokémon trainer is really not suitable for me. Sakura exhaled. Sure enough, it is more suitable for her to study water ballet honestly. With this idea, her White Sea Lion was easily defeated by Luo Yuan. I lost this game. It was a wonderful battle. Although Sakura's strength is not good, she has maintained a good demeanor as a gym trainer. I feel a little embarrassed when you put it that way. Luo Yuan smiled slightly. It's okay, we are used to it. Sakura's nerves were obviously very strong. She had experienced nearly 100 battles and could be called a battle-hardened Pokémon trainer, although she lost every time. As she spoke, she was about to give Luo Yuan a badge, but after touching her pocket, she suddenly showed an apologetic expression on her face. "Please wait, I'll go get the badge." Then Luo Yuan saw Sakura bring out a large box that was 1 meter square. Sakura opened the box, and it was full of shiny blue badges. Luo Yuan's mouth twitched. Using such a large box to hold the badges, how many trainers do you have to give badges to every year to use so many badges? Question mark. He remembered that Zyugang used 2 palm-sized boxes to hold the badges before, and there were at most a dozen badges in them. When it came to you, you changed to boxes. Your 2 gyms are only separated by a tunnel. This gap is too real. Taking the blue badge from Sakura, the prompt sound of the system in his mind sounded on time. Ding, congratulations to the host for winning the blue badge and winning a silver lottery. Do you want to draw now? Luo Yuan glanced at the 3 Hulan sisters, then at Xiaomao. It was obviously not a good time to draw. Don't draw for now. After saying this to the system in his mind, Luo Yuan turned his head and looked at Xiaomao, who was preparing to challenge. Xiaomao, I won't wait for you here. I'm leaving first. Ah, you're leaving now? I was planning to treat you to lunch at noon. Xiaomao was a little stunned by Luo Yuan's sudden farewell. He didn't expect Luo Yuan to leave now. Luo Yuan certainly wouldn't say that he left suddenly because he couldn't help wanting to see what he could draw in the lottery. He just smiled and said, "Let's talk about treating me to dinner later. My next stop should be Vermilion Leaf City. If there is a chance, we will meet again in Vermilion Leaf City." Since Luo Yuan insisted on leaving, Xiaomao couldn't stop him. "Then I'll contact you when I get to Vermilion Leaf City. Don't leave early. Don't worry." Luo Yuan waved to Xiaomao and the 3 Hulan sisters and left the Hulan gym directly. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.